It's definitely getting a fairly healthy scan here tonight. Let's go back to radar. And let's show that here. Again, this is the area of concern on the west side of Sioux Falls, just basically the northwestern edge. So if you're in Hartford, you're within this cell range right now. Crooks is next. This is moving kind of quickly up this direction toward Renner. You're also in the thick of this particular warning that has a little more of a bite to it when it comes to some strong straight line winds that are dumping out right now on the interstate and basically heading right for this section of Interstate 29, just near the Crooks exit, the Renner exit as well, and then headed up toward Midway. So we'll keep an eye on that as it skirts around the city of Sioux Falls.
Yeah, again, this is northeast at 40 miles per hour. That's how quickly this is moving on through. So not a whole lot of time if you're up toward the Crooks, Renner, and Baltic areas with the potential to see upward of 80 mile per hour gusts. We'll zoom out a little bit more. We just have these clusters of strong to severe thunderstorms that we're watching in east central and southeastern portions of Keloland, and still we are looking at just that monster of a segment that's going to continue to move on U.S. Highway 14 south of Oneida, northeast of Pierre. That's going to continue to push on up to the northeast, still putting out a lot of wind, upward of 80 miles per hour, not to mention upward of 2-inch diameter hail being indicated.
But this is what it's all about, putting a smile.
4 shots on this power play for the Lightning. They came early.
The quicker picker-upper.
It's Macy's 4th of July sale.
Gust with that cell that's moving up to the northeast toward Crooks and Baltic. So 73 mile per hour gust a little bit south of Hartford.
So we got a lot going on, don't we, tonight, folks? We've got all of this activity center near Pierre. That obviously has its own issues. We'll continue to track that. If you're in that area, we just highlighted with all of these spinning shear markers on Viper, Oneida, Harold, and Blunt for sure. You're in the middle of this right now as this unfolds here tonight. And let me just show you this number coming up. 80 mile per hour winds or gusts close to that, again near Blunt in our threat tracker here tonight. And then as Adam just mentioned, we go back to the Sioux Falls area. We've got a cluster of storms. They appear to be more dumping out the wind, and they've become pretty strong. This sector, this line is right there from Parker to Crooks. And if we loop this on the radar, this will help us get a better idea of how this thing's going to develop. And it looks to me like the whole thing is moving from southwest to northeast. Pretty good clip there, moving through Parker with some heavy rain, and now you've got the entrainment here to the north. But I do want to also bring up the wind data on this. Let's bring that specifically to attention here, because when you look at this, it looks to me like we're pretty much dealing with those strong winds as a primary threat. Into Crooks, you can see that. We just had that report near the Hartford area, and some of the numbers are coming in bigger. Obviously, there's also the attention here just to the northeast of Parker. There's probably another spot on radar just to the north of Chandler where the winds, or Chancellor, I should say, where it's getting a little stronger too. That's 65 to 70 mile an hour range.
And they also just put out a severe thunderstorm warning that kind of encompasses all of these storms that we're watching. This includes now the entirety of the Sioux Falls area. Could see upward of 70 mile per hour gusts as this continues to move on up to the north and east. So this is Lincoln, McCook, Minnehaha, and Turner counties. It's kind of that overarching box that goes out toward I-90 east of Beaver Creek, out into Humboldt on the east and west side respectively. So it's like I said, it's basically encompassing the entirety of that system, moving on up to the north by northeast, and that's going at about 40 miles per hour. So this now includes not just the west side of Sioux Falls, but this is going for the entirety of the city of Sioux Falls with this severe thunderstorm warning that's in place until 8:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We're zooming in on our downtown camera. You can see Sanford there, and out in the distance rather, there is part of that storm that's going to move on through.
Yeah, if we can take that full screen here, our live camera network from downtown, this will explain a whole lot. Okay, so as you see that cloud there, and you can clearly see that as we punch that up here tonight, again, that is your downburst, or we could classify that into maybe a microburst category, but basically what's in that cloud is dumping out, and then that rain foot is extending out from that. So basically coming down and around or out, okay? So that's the motion here, and as those winds accelerate out of that cloud and push out, then that's what's dumping out that potential for some strong damaging winds. And obviously we've referenced a couple of these reports around Hartford, and I'm going to just pan the view so you can see that's basically the picture here on the camera. It's kind of a little different view, isn't it, here, folks? But yeah, you can see all of these strands that extend down from the cloud right there. There they are. And with all this excessive heat today, you got 100-degree air. You're almost even talking about, in some ways, kind of what happens more in a desert-like climate, where these things are maybe initially a little more rain-starved or moisture-starved, but then there's certainly all of this going on that creates the atmospheric conditions for some really gusty winds. Here's this one up here north of Sioux Falls. See that one up near Crooks? Same thing. You know, it's coming down out of that cloud and producing that. Okay, we got a lot to get to here. I know we're spending some time on a few of these cells. I do want to quickly pan over to Parker. They've had heavy rain. That's the standing water you see there, but it looks like the storm now has cleared Parker. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because now we're going to be able to see some of the back elements of that. And that's certainly some of those pieces there we're looking at to the north and northeast of Parker. There might be a little bit of hail dropping out of that cloud, certainly the way that's looking right now. There's some contrast in there, isn't there? You can see how, again, this is just one solid core right here, comes out. This is looking northeast of Parker, and then this thing here, see this little push right there, that's that little rain foot that's coming out. And again, that's why the Weather Service has put out some warnings on this particular cell in Turner County, and that's just here southwest of Sioux Falls. But what the and if we go back to our radar source here quickly, I'll show you on the map here how that lines up. So here's Parker, southwest of Sioux Falls, and the warning box basically now just encompasses the city. So again, we'll see how that unfolds over the next few minutes, but we'll get that story out there too. Adam, we need to go back to Pierre and this area in central South Dakota.
So we're going to head back over, switch back over to the Aberdeen radar, kind of take a little bit of the clutter out of there so we can get a clearer view of what we're watching. We have seen more reports of gusts upward of 70 to 75 miles per hour, 4 miles west-southwest of Blunt, actually, coming in with a 72-mile-per-hour gust a little under 10 minutes ago with this cluster that continues to move on through. The bulk of this now just barely north of Blunt along Highway 14, and that's going to continue to move on up to the north and east through Sully County. And this is not taking its time. This is continuing to move on up into northeastern portions of Hughes County, and then eventually into Sully County as well, north of Highway 14. So this has had a history of producing 70, 80 mile per hour gusts, and even a little bit higher at times, up to 80 and 85 miles per hour. So zoom out, we'll kind of just bring everybody back up to speed. So we have that one severe thunderstorm warning in place. The southern flank toward Jones County, this is being allowed to expire ahead of time as the bulk of the severe weather threat has continued to move on up to the north and east. That's going to get on out of here. But now you notice this set, for lack of better terms, of boxes right over the Sioux Falls area. We showed that all-encompassing warning. That's going to include just the Sioux Falls area in general. That's 70 mile per hour wind gusts or higher. That will move on to the northeast around 40 or so miles per hour. Also, this smaller box that's going to go through Crooks up in the Baltic as well. That's still being warned for potentially upward of 80 mile per hour winds as it heads up into the Crooks area. We're switching over to velocity, and you can start to see those brighter shades of green on the regular velocity scan that's going to move on up into Crooks. We've seen that velocity upward of 70 and 80 miles per hour already. This is going to continue to move on up to the north and east, starting to see that wall of stronger wind moving into Ellis Corner, again up toward Crooks, Renner as well, north side of Sioux Falls. You're going to be seeing a decent bit of this wind as well. And then we have this other little bullseye, if you will, just south of County Highway 41. That's 72 miles per hour as indicated by radar. That's also moving up to the north and east. That's going to head up toward the Lake Lorraine area, Empire Mall, just about 8 miles to the west-southwest of where we have that little local maximum of wind is being indicated by radar, and that's not far off the ground either. So we can infer we're looking at 65 to 70 mile per hour winds mixing on back down to ground level as we reach the top of.
And he's only gotten strong.
By Kemper.
Just after sundown on BC's Coquihalla Highway.
Out there, just some sub-severe storms north of here along the Missouri River, headed up on the Mobridge, the Corson County area, starting to see some showers and thunderstorms, again, sub-severe in intensity. Up into that neck of the woods, a couple of now sub-severe storms toward Brookings, south of Watertown, right along the I-29 corridor. Those are also moving to the north and east, but they've had a history of producing a lot of wind and even some hail at times as well. So just because the warnings have been allowed to expire with those particular cells, we're going to continue to keep an eye on them as they have had a history of producing some pretty gnarly weather at times. But again, this is the big headline. This is the main feature that we're going to be watching for a little while, as it has had a history of showing signs of rotation, and it's also had a history of producing tornado warnings. Whether there's been any touchdown or not, we're gonna have to wait and see if there has been any confirmation via the National Weather Service. But for what it's worth, again, it has shown that rotation at times, moving on up to the north and east. So again, if you're toward Redfield, if you're toward Huron, Fulton as well, this is going to head on up your way along and north of US Highway 14, eventually up into that particular neck of the woods as we kind of switch it over. And you can see just that core that barely moved north of Blunt, where we can kind of infer where we still have that hail core in place. Also just the meat of that storm of just moving to the south by southeast of Oneida as it heads out of Hughes County and eventually up a little bit further to the north by northeast. And there's the threat tracker that we've been looking at as of late. And there is that shade of yellow that we do not like to see, and that orange for that matter as well. That orange, that's indicative of radar indicating upward of 100 mile per hour winds within the storm. Not to mention within that core, upward of 2-inch diameter hail. Again, that's just north of Highway 14, northeast of Blunt, southeast of Oneida. That's going to continue to move on up to the north and east at a pretty decent clip too. So it's going to be something that we continue to keep a very close eye on. Have we received any other updates or just storm reports?
You bet. Yeah, just a quick one here for the Sioux Falls area. We're looking at the cluster of storms that are centered over the Sioux Falls area. I'm going to bring us up to speed here with that. Again, severe thunderstorm warning in effect for portions of Lincoln, McCook, Turner counties with 70-mile-an-hour winds and up to 1.25 inch diameter hail with this. If we can, let's bring our live camera view up again. And this is our current view from 41st Street. Okay, so now what are we looking at? This changes all the time, doesn't it, folks? We've got, okay, this is where the storm is. There on the west side or coming into the west side of Sioux Falls, and again, dumping out that strong winds. Same thing again. See that little foot or that little extension right there at the bottom of your screen? That's what we're at least concerned about at the present moment. I'm going to walk back here over to the controls, and let's bring the view out just a little bit. Again, that's a storm cell that's moving into the city of Sioux Falls. So a little different look this time around, but again, the potential is there for some strong straight line winds with that. So we'll be carefully eyeing all of that here tonight. I also have another view here, but while we're on this, again, this is showing us quite a bit of detail there with that. Again, it's not necessarily a large storm, but it's kind of a smaller concentrated area. And from our downtown viewpoint, again, we start our view here looking northwest. So that's again toward Crooks, and kind of follow the whole line here on the western side of the city. And yeah, it's not exactly a full intense line, but it definitely has some spots in here where the winds are getting rather gusty, and we've already been reporting confirmed winds in the 70-mile-an-hour range out toward Hartford. So those are destructive winds, and you definitely need to be taking shelter if you've been outside, or, you know, after the hot day. A lot of folks have been out and about today, but right now we need you in a place of safety. Let this storm go through. We've got other vantage points from Great Bear on the east side of Sioux Falls, just kind of getting a bird's eye view of this storm structure here too to the west of the city of Sioux Falls. By the way, one other thing here, while we're on our live cameras, I want to go back to out here near Pier, and this is, of course, Spring Creek. We were talking about this earlier when the storms were rolling through. Things have calmed down a little bit there tonight, but obviously still some storms going on in that area. We'll be keeping a close eye on everything going downstream as this comes into areas probably closer to Miller. Also, I would probably put Redfield on the map there, too. This is a view from Pier this evening. Again, the storm has kind of blown through Pier tonight, but with some very strong winds. That obviously making its presence known here. So it's been a busy night here of storm coverage, and downtown Sioux Falls, again, that's our view at the present moment with that storm moving through.
And we'll switch back over to radar. This is our latest view of the system that's continuing to move on to the north and east of Pier. Still picking up on some little signatures of rotation. Those little flags, if you will, just near the Oneida area, not to mention some very, very gusty winds south and east of Oneida. That's 85 miles per hour, and that's a little over a mile or so up, so it is a decent bit up into the air, but you can infer some of that mixing down to the ground. At bare minimum, we're talking likely 70 or so mile per hour winds that are starting to mix on down from that part of the storm all the way down to the surface. But we are also looking at some hail that is remaining in place now just north of Harold along U.S. Highway 14. There's the latest scanning. You can kind of see that elongated oval, that core of hail north of Highway 14, and that is in the southeastern corner of Sully County, continuing to move on up to the northeast. So I know Falkton still a decent ways out from this one. I keep a very close eye on this as it continues to move on through. As Brian mentioned, also Redfield, Highmore, to a lesser extent Miller, with a couple of storms not too far out of your neck of the woods that are at least sub-severe in intensity for the time being. But again, it's this main segment that we are going to continue to watch as that moves on up. And that'll eventually head on up to the U.S. Highway 212 corridor into the, again, up into the Falkton area as well.
Just want to update folks on the big picture here. We've had, I know we've been focusing on these two clusters, the Pier area, Sioux Falls area. Okay, we got some other storms out there, but there's also a pretty big one down in Nebraska. I know it's a little ways out here on the view here tonight, but the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it looks like the Storm Prediction Center is probably going to put out some sort of a weather watch attendant to this threat, that this thing comes up out of north central Nebraska. And the thinking is, it sounds like they're going to go ahead and put out probably some sort of a severe thunderstorm watch area or some extension of that down here. So these areas southwest of Sioux Falls, within maybe the hour or so, we'll see how fast they put that out. But again, there's other things going on, not just the local Sioux Falls area or the Pier area at this time. So kind of a busy evening of storms around, and even outside of the main severe weather. Let me bring up a couple of these storm cells. Again, you see near Watertown. Nothing yet of any major significance there, but certainly some other things that are coming in from the southwest. So anybody in Aberdeen, Watertown, even to some extent Huron, continue to watch the weather. Obviously things in Brookings too, watching that cell.
Yep, you're going to see a severe thunderstorm warning on that one come up in just a few seconds. So that's going to be a new one until 9 p.m. for Brookings County as well as Lincoln County, Minnesota. For that cell, 60-mile-per-hour gusts possible. There it is. There it is. It's including the Brookings area itself, I-90. Toward the White area. This is moving northeast at 50 miles per hour. So again, that's a new one that just came through. Funny you're mentioning those cells. They have had a history of being of severe criteria, and we are getting that just as you are mentioning it. Also, a new severe thunderstorm warning. This is down for Pipestone County as well as Rock County, Minnesota, and then portions of Minnehaha and Moody. They are extending that warning north and east. They have backed off a little bit on the wind, back down to 70 miles per hour. That warning, including the Pipestone area, Del Rapids, that is until 8:30 p.m. That also moving to the northeast, but it is not wasting any time. That's northeast at 60 miles per hour.
Okay, let me hone in on some of these winds. This is right now west side of Sioux Falls, 60 to 70. So here is Lake Lorraine. right there, Empire Mall. So, yeah, we get out here to TLS Road, basically there, or just even now scooting closer to Interstate 29. The western, northwestern sides of the city is where those winds are gusty. You know, we've been panning back on those live cameras. We should just go back to that again and show you what we're seeing right now. Again, this is, if we can do that quickly here on the air, there we go. Our this is our downtown camera. Again, a lot of wind there. Let's look at 41st Street. I know as this is coming through, we're just handling everything we've got coming through the city, but certainly those rain curtains are there. The gusty winds are there. So again, that's a severe thunderstorm warning. I would highly recommend, yeah, you find a sturdy shelter, get away from windows, you know, as these winds can come through, and some areas, some neighborhoods could certainly get a little more wind than others, and that's why we're here on the air tonight again with another round of severe weather. What a year this has been. We continue to get these storms, and this one again a little different than some of these other ones. This has been a different day with temperatures close to 100, and then you get all of this extreme instability, and we've been able to kind of blow these things up. A late afternoon heating of the day, and along some of these frontal features here. Let me bring up another camera view. This is our Sanford camera. See if I can pan that over. I was kind of watching that feature there on the northwest side of the city right there. You can definitely see where that push of wind is likely coming out right there. So that's another example of that. Again, that's the northwest side of the city of Sioux Falls, and we'll continue to watch all of those features as they come through tonight. Let's go back to radar, because now we've got, yeah, some bigger numbers coming in.
Yeah, I just noticed that just east of Ellis, I saw that little maximum there, and wanted to try and do a pixel query on that one, and it did come up 81 miles per hour, and that is just on the west side and west-southwest side of Sioux Falls, rather.
So we're talking Madison Street, and of course, as fast as this is moving, this is now moving right up toward the Russell Street interchange on Interstate 29. You know, looking at the airport as well, north side of Sioux Falls. That's where the worst of that wind core is currently located. So please take shelter right now. There's some really strong winds coming in there right now as we speak. And as we kind of sample again some of these new numbers coming into the storm center this evening. And we just had a kind of a view there looking at some of this stuff here. Again, these are all real-time data points. We're just telling you how we see it as this comes across the city of Sioux Falls tonight. And again, this has been part of a line of storms extending down to Parker. The southern part of it not as strong at the moment, but you can see the whole connection of these things. They go all the way up to Jasper and Del Rapids. A series of thunderstorms tonight, and any of these producing some strong gusty winds now. That's kind of been a transition point. We had hail earlier, may still have hail with this Brookings cell. Let me check that quickly here, as since we're on the subject here. And we're going to put this graphic together. Again, this is looking at the internals. I would say at this moment, probably not as much hail there in Brookings, although that can change. But if we pan down even into Sioux Falls, I'd really say it's just rain now. There's not much in the way of any ice accumulation there on that, or at least not as much as there was. Let's go back to the live camera. Let's see what's going on here. West side of Sioux Falls. I'm going to bring up a couple of things here with our cameras. 41st Street. And again, the wind that we analyze is more on the northwest side of town, the worst of it. But, yeah, the winds have definitely come up here, even in that neighborhood there near the Empire Mall. So, again, this thing's moving through. Take shelter as a severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for the city of Sioux Falls. This is our Falls Park camera, so that's another view here. As we zoom in here, and there's the cathedral, and you can see up the hill there, looking at some of the gray skies and obviously the wind that's embedded within this storm. And then obviously, too, looking from downtown, this has a pretty good vantage point, too, as the winds are starting to pick up across the city. And again, it looks like the west-northwest side probably going to get the worst punch out of that. Hopefully not too bad, but we want to make sure we're clear that, yes, there is a strong to severe thunderstorm moving through the city of Sioux Falls as we speak. Our time right now, 14 minutes after 8 o'clock.
And we also have an update on the central portion of the area.
Yeah, let's go back to our Viper machine here and looking at radar coverage.
Move back on over to northeast of Pierre. And we have that new severe thunderstorm warning that is in place. They have continued to extend this. This is going to head up toward the Fulton area within the next about 30 to 45 minutes. This is moving to the northeast at 55 miles per hour. This is portions of Hand, Sully, Hyde, Falk, Potter, and Hughes County. Still keying in on 80-mile-per-hour gusts and ping-pong ball-sized hail along that bow. That's going to move on up again. This is now including the Fulton area. This is northeast at 55 miles per hour. So that's going to head near just a little bit north and west of Redfield. If you're in Millette, Fulton, this is going to be headed right into your neck of the woods. And this has had a history of being rather destructive, be it with any kind of hail that's been making its way to the ground or those gusts of 80 to 85 miles per hour that we have seen on several occurrences over the course of the evening.
Yeah, and this, you know, the one thing that has been very consistent tonight are these rotation or these shear markers. Basically, that's an indicative, a pretty strong indicator, if you will, of severe weather. So it's either attendant to straight line winds. Occasionally, you can produce a tornado threat, although that we have not had a tornado warning per se for a little while, but we've had the embedded destructive winds that have been pulling through this swath here. So Oneida's kind of through it, or at least the worst of it right now is to the east of Oneida. There's Highmore, Ree Heights, of course, Miller over here on the other side of the screen, so probably cutting to the northwest of Miller on this one. And that brings up another subject. We can probably bring up our live camera from Miller, and let's go ahead and do that quickly. And by the way, too, we're into Sioux Falls as well.
Okay,
so
there's Miller.
Yep, and two stories, trying to cover all of these at once here. So again, as Adam's panning that camera again, that's Miller. Probably looking at a couple of lead thunderstorm cells there in Miller, but the main cell to the northwest of Miller tonight. And that's, again, the strongest storm. That one definitely has a lot more organization to it tonight, but again, that's the view from Miller. Now let's go back to Sioux Falls just to kind of double check on things. Again, downtown, we're getting our rain. The strongest pocket of wind is on the northwest side of the city. So again, a history of some gusts have been up to 70, and so we'll just keep kind of referencing back to that from time to time. And that 41st Street camera 2 is showing us some of the rain, obviously some of this strong wind too that's pushing through that side of the city as we speak. And looks like here as we look at that live here tonight, again, severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the city of Sioux Falls. And we'll be tracking, a lot of this here tonight. It'll be pretty busy. Back to Viper we go. Let's bring you up to date on the radar view. And this is our core of, well, severe weather in the east. I even noticed up in Brookings now.
Starting to get a rotation marker up that way.
Yeah, that just popped up, didn't it? So now we've got maybe a little more to watch up here in Brookings. We'll kind of keep an eye on that here, too, tonight, as some indicators are there. Again, I would classify that as just more of a kind of a watching mode on the worst of that. But again, there's certainly some strong clusters here right through the city of Sioux Falls as we speak. The biggest storm, though, obviously continues to be this destructive storm that is making its way out of the Pier area tonight. We've had several areas here of destructive winds, 80 miles per hour. That kind of wind, you consider that to be hurricane force wind speeds. And obviously here tonight, a lot happening here. This is all just right now as we zoom in here on the street level mapping. There's the city of Oneida, and just east of there, that's a powerful band of storms. That whole line is probably upwards of about 30 to 40 miles across, and that's a really strong push. So the warning that's in effect right now extends up toward the Fulton area. And again, that storm is moving northeast at about 55 miles per hour. So eventually that kind of puts that area between Aberdeen and Redfield in the path of those winds as we speak. We're getting a pretty good thunderstorm downtown Sioux Falls. You can hear the thunder behind us or in the background there tonight as we reflect on that. Here's our live scan on the Beersford radar.
We got the heart of that moving right through the downtown area, so we can hear the rain hitting the roof, and we get the occasional rumble of thunder in there as well.
Yeah, so we're here, obviously, the downtown area right there, just getting that rain as we speak. And the lightning tracker also says, yes, there's quite a number of lightning strikes. Some of the bigger ones, looks like Southeastern Avenue, the big lightning strikes, the yellow versus the all the white there. Those are all those cloud-to-ground lightning strikes over the city of Sioux Falls. So that's why we want to tell you, too, got to take shelter. Even though this storm doesn't necessarily look as strong at times, it does have a lot of lightning with it. Look at all of that going all the way up line there, up through Pipestone tonight. So that's kind of our vantage point here from Kettleland Live Doppler HD. And again, that's part of a series of storms tonight that are very strong, electrically speaking. A lot of lightning strikes out here toward the Oneida area as I overlay the radar view. Again, very strong winds. Let's take a look at the latest just with that alone here tonight. And as we bring up the powerful storm here, again, look at all the purple in there. That is a lot, probably at least to some degree, that hail swath that is pegging that area. And anytime we get any wind to accompany hail, that's even a worse combo. And there it is right now north of Highmore here tonight, Adam.
Yeah, we had a prime example of you mentioning wind-driven hail with the storms that moved through around a week ago out toward Belle-Fourche, when they were dealing with upward of tennis ball sized hail that was being driven by 70 to 75 mile per hour wind gusts. So we're getting a similar setup there, not as large of hail, but when it's being driven by gusts approaching 80 plus miles per hour, it's not really going to much matter just how big that hail is. It is still getting pushed with a lot of force with these gusts as they continue to move on up to the north and east. Again, this is moving pretty quickly. North and east, 55 miles per hour. If you're planning on headed west of Redfield along U.S. Highway 212, anybody Falkton, east of Gettysburg as well, this is going to be headed up your way within about the next 15 to 20 or so minutes as this continues to race on up into Falk County.
Yeah, very strong storm, and obviously watching all of this coming together. Sioux Falls area right now, as we look at our live downtown camera, I just want to go back to some of the other visuals that we have tonight. If we can take that full here on our live camera network here tonight, you can see that, yeah, the worst of the storm is actually, yeah, pushing through. You already see the sun set there in the distance. And then as we pan here to the left, that's, again, the core of the storm. Right there it is, moving across the city of Sioux Falls. Here downtown, we're getting some rain, but certainly the strongest winds we're hoping have kind of dumped out, at least out across parts of that storm. That's one of the things about these thunderstorm cells tonight. They can be kind of fast and moving through and then moving onwards and down into different areas. So again, from downtown Sioux Falls, our vantage point not so bad, but we are getting some rain. Let's go back to Viper, though, and I want to make sure we're clear about why we're on the air. We, again, are watching a very strong to severe thunderstorm in the Oneida area. Destructive severe thunderstorm winds, hurricane-force winds at times have been reported with the history of this storm. And again, that is a very powerful storm. If it does change gears, we will change with that. But as of right now, as of the latest update on the severe thunderstorm warning, that is a destructive severe thunderstorm with large hail and 80-mile-an-hour winds at times here. So Falkton, if you are in Falkton, it is time for you to prepare, get to your place of sturdy shelter. And we always like to mention, too, with a situation like this, you got to be in something more substantial, because even a mobile home can get blown over. Other things with these very strong straight line winds, you have to treat that as if it's tornado-like winds. And so that's headed toward Falk County right now. There's the Orient, Polo areas you can see there on the live tracking system here on Viper tonight. And it all comes together here for some very strong storms. It looks like things are calming down a little bit, though. McCook County, Turner County, getting that warning cleared. So that's some good positive news tonight.
However, I do have to at least cut in quickly on this one. They have updated the severe thunderstorm warning for Lincoln and Minnehaha County. They have now upped that to potentially 80-mile-per-hour winds, as indicated by radar. And that warning, again, still in place until 8:30 p.m. But the my phone actually just went off as it was coming over through the ticker here with the National Weather Service, indicating that yes, we do have that upgrade of potentially upward of 80-mile-per-hour winds moving through at least that portion of the severe thunderstorm warning. So let's zoom out a little bit. We're going to recap exactly what we've been covering. We've been covering a lot over the last couple of hours. So for those of you just joining us, we have multiple areas of severe weather that we are keeping an eye on. The main headline, the main weather maker has been this particular cell, this Boeing structure moving up toward Falk County, U.S. Highway 212 into Falkton. With that warning in place until 8:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time, this has had a history of producing upward of 80 to 85-mile-per-hour wind gusts as it moves up to the northeast at 55 miles per hour. Some sub-severe storms moving through Miller right now, also headed up into Redfield, but this has been the troublemaker, for lack of better terms, over the last about 1 to even 2 hours. And it's even produced a couple of tornado warnings for radar-indicated rotation. Meanwhile, further down to the south and east, we have also been keeping an eye on several severe thunderstorm warnings down this way. One for southeastern Dual County for 60-mile-per-hour winds. Also, northeastern Brookings County going into Lincoln County, Minnesota. They have their severe thunderstorm warning in place until 9 o'clock. Minnehaha, Moody, Pipestone counties also seeing severe thunderstorm warning out that way, including Pipestone. But the update for Sioux Falls is what we have a close eye on, where we have the potential of seeing upward of 80-mile-per-hour winds with this line moving through into the east and southeast side of Sioux Falls. That little hook down there toward the end of T. This is all pushing to the east at around 40 or so miles per hour. Let's bring up our live camera so we can get another look outside. This storm continuing to move on through Sioux Falls and really put out not just a lot of rain, but also a lot of wind. Now, this is our Great Bear camera, yes?
Yes.
Okay, this is our Great Bear camera on the northeastern side of the city. You can just see the rain and getting swept by very, very strong winds. And now we have the trees front and center that have really been getting jostled around by a gust that has been really making its presence known over only about the last 5 or 10 minutes. They have also issued a new severe thunderstorm warning. This is for Pipestone, Rock, Minnehaha, and Moody County until 9 p.m. They're basically extending the northern portion of that warning. So Del Rapids, Garretson, Pipestone, Jasper. This includes you guys until 9 p.m. Potentially upward.
You know this. Everybody ready? Alexa, ask.
To determine that the puck came all the way out inside.
At about 50 to 60 miles per hour with this new warning that has just been issued. So again, that is for 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts as indicated by radar. My apologies, that's at 35 miles per hour that's moving up to the northeast. That was a previous warning where it was moving a little bit faster. It has since slowed up a little bit, but regardless, if you are right along the South Dakota-Minnesota border, you are going to want to keep a very, very close eye on things and get inside. As we take a look at our Falls Park camera, where that has also seen a lot of activity over a better part of the last 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of rain. Obviously, you know, some localized ponding of water, some of those traditional elements that we watch on 41st Street, where it ponds up pretty good there in some spots. But it looks like the worst of the storm now has made it through there. And this view over toward Great Bear, again, has been kind of, yeah, a lot of wind at times. And, of course, these pockets of heavy rain, all of those kind of things here moving through the area tonight. So, again, this has been quite a busy night here of weather. And let's go back to radar. We'll kind of reset the view here with the warnings clustered over Sioux Falls and the Minnehaha County area. Again, we got a couple of boxes here. The one extending for Sioux Falls, and then the others up toward Pipestone, and then another sector that's up through Elkton and Hendricks. And you got some of the same characteristics, some pockets of wind, and within that too, some potential for hail, but the wind parameter might be a little bit more of a deal right now. Obviously, you look at Sioux Falls and kind of where this thing has kind of gone here in this last few minutes. Again, I would say our strongest winds now are moving on to the east side of Sioux Falls, kind of on the edge of this line that I'll draw in right about there. Again, that's kind of moving Brandon down to Schindler. Harrisburg is kind of on the edge, technically not in the warning as we speak. I do need to get back to business here in central South Dakota. This storm that is moving toward Faulkton. Take a look at this. This is brand new data coming in. We're getting winds again. We've been consistently getting some of these big numbers coming out of this cell, 80+ miles per hour. So if you are in Faulkton, this thing is coming right for you. And we want to make sure we're clear about that this is a history of destructive severe thunderstorm winds. On radar, you can see on Viper, again, we're scanning several of these, what we call shear markers. In other words, these are indicators where we have either the combination of hail. In fact, our hail tracker is pretty certain about that. And to some degree, again, the storm motion, pretty quick too. This is activity that's racing off to the northeast at about, let's say about 50, 55 miles per hour. And looks like as we scan through the reports, I know you're looking through a couple of those.
71 knots at Sioux Falls from their most recent report. Yeah, 71 knot gust out of the west-northwest over the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, so we're talking almost 80-mile-an-hour winds.
Also some reports of hail coming in from the airport as well. They've also put out a warning for the southeastern flank of that. That includes Brandon, Valley Springs, over toward Laverne. That's a severe thunderstorm warning for Minnehaha and Rock counties until 9 p.m. Could see upward of 70-mile-per-hour gusts. So that's the I-90 corridor again, Brandon to Laverne for that particular severe thunderstorm warning as we take a look at what is appear to be our Beersford radar, correct? Or is
yes.
That, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're just kind of scanning on that because it's going to have a pretty good setup on how this is moving through the city of Sioux Falls. So again, the north side of the city has been kind of the worst part of this, as we've been getting some reports now. Again, the report at the airport just coming in with that gust well over 70 miles per hour. So now if you look at this flank coming up toward Corson, Brandon, here we go again. More wind there. Garrettson, too. Severe thunderstorm warning. This extends into Rock County, Laverne, Beaver Creek, Hardwick, and Jasper, all included with this cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings right now. So again, it's been quite an active night of weather. Obviously, we're going to continue to keep a very close eye on these parameters as all of this comes together. Let me loop the radar here so you can see how that all coming through the city of Sioux Falls, and just to look at some of the background here on the wind here that we're looking at the present moment. And again, there's been quite a bit of that moving through with this particular cell here tonight. Again, some of these wind numbers are at least to 70 miles per hour. As we take one more look at that, again, these are just some live hits here. We're looking at probably the worst of the wind, at least the edge of those strong winds moving into Valley Springs right now. That's why we were bringing up a minute ago some of those pictures there from Great Bear. I do want to go back to our live camera network. Let's do that for a moment and see if we can bring up that Brandon camera. And that's going to show up right here. Again, Brandon, yeah, kind of watching this coming in as we speak. So again, these things, we've been just tracking all of these things humming along here tonight. And again, that's looking off in the distance there to the west. So as that comes into Brandon, and again, some of the initial hits of wind already moving through, but obviously there's more embedded within that line. The downtown area is kind of cleared out now. So, you know, as we speak, at least in the middle of town, we're a little clearer. And then we got this to the west there again. See that? There's another cell, and then that's looking back toward the southwest. So it's been one of those nights where these things are popping up and blows through the area quickly, and then takes another vantage point. This is the Empire Mall right now. I was just looking to see what that looked like down here. You see blue skies to the south of the mall. And then if I turn over here, look at that. Got a rainbow in the middle of that too, by the way. You can see right there. That's within the heavy rain structure right there over the middle of Sioux Falls, probably going down 41st Street. So
let's bring up our camera for just a moment so they can viewers can see that as well. There it is. There's the view from our 41st Street camera.
Yep. And again, these storms are in parts of the city. We've been identifying that here as we speak. Great Bear camera, again, some heavy rain that direction. With all of this, again, the wind at the present moment not as strong there. But as we've seen quickly, these things change fast. There's Brandon once again. And you can stream any one of these on your Storm Tracker app if you want to just kind of keep an eye on one of them. In particular, for your location, you can just do that at your fingertips on your mobile device. You can quickly scan there, KELOLAND.com, and, of course, our Storm Tracker app. Let's go back to Viper now as we rejoin the activity here. And, again, this is looking at what we're seeing now with KELOLAND Live Doppler HD and the storm cell clustered over Sioux Falls to Brandon to Garrettson. That one we're watching. Obviously, we've got bigger storms and bigger problems going on here. We've got to go back to this.
Yep, we just got a new warning. They've just extended it a little bit further. It's going to be Brown, Edmonds, Falk, Han, Hyde, Potter, and Spink counties until 9:30. Still showing 80-mile-per-hour gusts, and actually at around 8:25 Central Time, 18 miles south of Seneca, they did get a report of an 80-mile-per-hour gust as relayed by local emergency managers. So again, that was 18 miles south of Seneca.
Okay, so that confirmed update would have been right around in this area here. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just scanning again, and we keep popping up numbers, 80, 70, 80, and then every once in a while we'll get a scan that'll say in the cloud layer, it's, close to 100. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean all of that's coming down to the ground at that level, but even if it's 80, that's still hurricane force winds. And I'm going to point out again, that feature has been very consistent. So at this point, I would be very much in line to thinking that Faulkton, or at least west of Faulkton, that's going to be probably an area that's going to receive these damaging winds very shortly. And it's not too early to start thinking about Aberdeen. Aberdeen's not in the warning yet, but that can change quickly. So if you're here looking at Warner, is kind of on the very edge of the warning, Millette as well. But these storms have been packing quite a punch. Let me go back to our hail tracker here. And this gives you kind of a past history through Pierre and coming up through Oneida. Again, there have been pockets of hail within this. Specifically in the very latest scan, I can tell you pretty confidently that these are all pockets of hail right there as they pop up on our live storm trackers. So there's Gettysburg, kind of to the south and east of Gettysburg. It looks like the worst of that storm with the hail is about 14 miles south of Gettysburg, at least the hail core that we're seeing on Doppler. And you can see that too, 20 miles to the east, southeast of Gettysburg. This whole line, there's 3 or 4 of these big spots in there.
These pockets, basically.
Yep, and they are definitely strong. Miller, is getting a storm as well, but no warning there. And then, by the way, when you extrapolate the hail tracker coming off of the different radar sources, we can look a little higher up in the cloud, and you bet there's hailstones in that Elkton cell. There's even
Pipestone, Garrettson.
Yep, these are all, in fact, this is actually probably a better way to do that because you're looking up in the mid layers of the cloud. Now, of course, it's hot, so, some of these hailstones will tend to melt somewhat, and that's been primarily what we've seen here. But I just wanted to give you kind of a heads up there that, these things are going on in the clouds, and that's why there are some hail notations based on these, but also these wind gusts. Now, as far as damage goes, we can look through some of these reports here. This one southwest of Crooks, there's a measured wind at 63. Another one south of Hartford at 73. Little hail, a little less than an inch in diameter, west side of Sioux Falls. Looking at this one here closer to TLS Road, that was as of what time? There about 8:14 or so. About a half an hour, not quite that long ago. That was inch diameter hail. And then you can look at more wind, Wall Lake, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and then another one there just to the due north of Parker. So that's what we know so far. We'll see if any other damage reports come in.
So for just a pair of new warnings that have just been coming through, I've been keeping an eye on that kind of in the background. You've got one of them right there. It includes Pipestone headed toward Marshall and Tracy. That's Lincoln, Lyon, Murray, Nobles, Pipestone, and Rock counties in Minnesota. That's until 9:30, 70-mile-per-hour gusts possible. And you were mentioning the cells of storms not too far away from the Miller area. They did actually just issue a warning, which includes Miller. Okay. That'll be until 9:15 p.m. That's for portions of Hand and Spink County. 60-mile-per-hour gusts possible with that cluster of storms continuing to move on through. So that's the newest warning that had come on through over the last about maybe 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, and as we go back to our live camera network, let's bring Miller into this conversation here, if we can do that. There's Miller. Okay, so now you can see, yep, here we go again. The old wind is coming back, and usually we can see those flags there in the foreground, and they're blown around quite a bit too. So again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning, but certainly a strong storm that is located in this area. Again, you can see on the horizon there, some of these clusters are moving through as we speak. Downtown Miller looking like this. Again, the rain is just beginning as we speak, so we'll keep an eye on that as it affects your community as we speak. And again, the biggest storm is definitely the one up near Faulkton. That's the one we're most concerned about. Let's go back to that view on Viper for a moment so we can tell where that is. Again, Faulkton is just on the edge of this, and boy, that is a strong signature right now. In fact, if anything, you know, if we bring up the data here just to look at Faulkton and what's coming into town right now, this is some pretty strong wind. We've had a history of 80. And you know what? The numbers, now we're measuring these numbers. This is a little bit off the surface, so you have to remember that a little bit here. We're looking at a height of about 3,000 feet. So this is under a mile up, you know, so, you know, close to a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile up in the sky. But it still tells us there's a lot of wind measured there, and the advancement toward Faulkton is such that we want to make sure we're very clear that these storms can produce some pretty intense damage, and we want to make that clear as that whole warning has been expanded. That box goes past Falk County. It extends into parts of Spink County, just cutting northwest of Redfield. That's another camera, too, here we'll probably want to bring up here as we bring that all into the fold. And Aberdeen, I'll say it one more time, Aberdeen, you're not out of the woods. This storm is going to be coming in pretty close to Aberdeen, and that will be probably within the hours. So if you're in Aberdeen, I would strongly recommend you pay close attention to this particular storm.
Yeah, these warnings, especially down towards Sioux Falls that we've been talking about, that just verified quite nicely. 3 miles northwest of Sioux Falls, 82-mile-per-hour gust, and that was at the ASOS station at the airport. So again, that's 82 miles per hour in Sioux Falls. Also a new warning just for northwestern Beadle County, kind of to bookend that little notch that was in place for the warning that was just to the east of Miller. That basically filled that in just to kind of make it a bit of a larger polygon. So that's over toward the Wessington area, northwest of Woolsey as well.
Sure. Yep. And that obviously another cell. These things there's plenty of them around tonight. Once again here in Ketherlands. So as we bring up, let's go back to Hail Tracker on that. And you can see here tonight, again, these storms probably producing at least some segment of that around Wessington or pretty close to that area. And certainly this cell up near Faulkton still has some of that. I wanted to bring up our threat tracker once again. We like to just update this as frequently as we possibly can. So as the cycle of data kind of runs through again, it looks like, you know, the latest scan, not quite as heavy on the wind, but it's still there. And these consistent shear markers, when I say that, what I'm referring to are these little circular spots on the radar. Now, what that means is we're not necessarily looking at tornado winds, but there's certainly some element of severe winds or other elements of severe weather usually associated with this. It's a pretty high probability. When those things pop up on the screen, you know something more significant is happening, and it's not just in that area. If you look back at the last couple of hours, you know, we can rewind this all the way back through Pierre. Look at this whole train. They've been coming along the whole route with that storm. So that's been the big one of the night, and still is a big problem for Aberdeen coming up if it maintains that strength. Farther south and east, well, the storm reports, as Adam just mentioned, Sioux Falls Airport, 80-mile-an-hour wind tonight. And these storms, we still have a cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings due to the strength of these cells here, the eastern side of the county, until 9 o'clock. That's 15 minutes. And looks like we probably have some hail, you know, trying to blend in here with some of that up toward Garrettson maybe Brandon again. We should probably go back to our live cameras just to see a bird's eye view.
I've got Redfield up just at the moment because we're starting to see the leading edge of that storm kind of making its way into southern parts of Spink County, part of that severe warned cluster near the Miller and Wessington region.
Yeah, and you're seeing there, obviously, you know, looking across west of Redfield tonight, again, some of these same features we've been seeing with some of these other storms tonight. And as we get into closer to areas near Sioux Falls, once again, we kind of bounce back and forth. There's Brandon. Again, the storm moving through as we speak there. That's a live view from the golf course. So, again, you know, you'll have moments here in these storms where it's not so bad, doesn't look quite as intense. And then, you know, popping up on our screens, we get an 80-mile-an-hour wind gust. These things, these downburst-type winds are happening tonight. So that's why, again, we're really keeping an eye on a fast-changing night. Then you got this view. Look at that, how that's cleared out. Sioux Falls looking south, blue sky and the storm pretty much exiting there to the east. I'm kind of panning live here so we can look to the northeast of Sioux Falls. And again, looks like, yeah, in town, things are pretty much quieting down. So that's been the night here. We've had several things happening, and then as they move through quickly, that's kind of been the story. Let's go back to Miller. This has been an interesting view. Now, this is kind of catching the southern flank of that big storm out there that's headed toward Fulton right now. Again, this portion of the severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for that area this evening. You can see some of those threatening clouds there in the background, obviously on radar. Let's go back to that on the maps and just showing you where that storm is in relationship to the city of Miller. And there's a bunch of things going on around Miller. East of town, that's a pretty strong storm. North of Miller, up, in fact, getting up to Fulton, that's a very intense cell. And those warnings extending just about to Redfield. So Redfield, too, would be another area we'd be concerned about with some impending severe weather in that direction. Don't want to forget about all this activity over toward Pipestone and western Minnesota here. As Adam, you're looking at that here, and it looks like a fairly strong storm right now between Elkton and Minneota. So over here, Ivanhoe in the middle of this one, and it's the same deal. We've got some pockets of some strong winds in here, and we'll keep a close eye on that along with some hail as a possibility.
Yeah, these storms have been capable of producing upward of ping pong ball sized hail at times as of late, with the southeastern cluster that's moving up to the northeast around 40 or so miles per hour in a large majority of those locations. But as we've mentioned, we have seen confirmed reports of 70 and 80 plus mile per hour winds with these storms a little bit earlier in the afternoon. And we've also seen a couple of reports of a near 80-mile-per-hour gust in the Hyde County area. This is west of Polo by about 17 miles, with that just monster of a system continuing to move on through. We're actually barreling through Fulton as we speak, moving into Fulton County, U.S. Highway 212 corridor to the north and west of Redfield. And you can see those areas of green and maroon, that's shear that we're seeing. You can also notice we've got that bow signature moving from Seneca to Miranda, looping north of Berkmere as well as Fulton. And that's continuing to push on through. You notice those brighter shades of green right over Fulton, right over U.S. Highway 212, 70, 75, 76, 79 miles per hour. And that's a few thousand feet up in the air, but that's still mixing down pretty effectively. At bare minimum, we're likely looking at 70 to 75 mile per hour winds with that push of very, very strong wind in central portions of Fulton County. And if you were to hypothetically maybe continue to draw that out to the north and east, like we've mentioned, there's Aberdeen up to the north and east by about 38.5 miles. And with this moving to the northeast at around 55 miles per hour, we're talking about 30 to 40 minutes before this gets up into east central portions of Brown County. Aberdeen up there by about 9:30, so about 45 minutes time before this gets up there. And that's assuming this holds as it does and assuming it takes that exact path. But either way, if you're in the Aberdeen area, if you're toward Warner, Millette as well, you want to keep a very close eye on this, as this has had a history of being very, very destructive, moving up into the north and east, 80 to 85 mile per hour gusts being observed on multiple occasions. We'll move out of the way so we can get a dissection of this storm, because this has been a very, very impressive bow echo that's been evolving and just continuing to push on through to the north and east. You can see where the cloud tops go well over that 30,000 foot line, upward of 40 to even 50,000 feet. So it is really just shooting up into the atmosphere. This is a very invigorated storm that has been able to hold its form and hold its intensity for quite some time now. And we actually just got a report out of Hartford, 3 miles south. A trailer actually got blown off the road during that storm that had moved through about an hour or so ago. So we are getting more and more reports of a decent bit of damage at times with both systems. The one that's moving up into Falkton right now, and then the other one that's been moving through Hartford and also into the Sioux Falls area, points north and east. We've also had a couple of reports of some pretty large tree branches that have been broken off in eastern Baltic as that line had moved on through. The report out of Hartford not populating on the map quite yet, but we do at least have that coming through. So this has been a pretty gnarly evening on 2 separate fronts, with 2 separate clusters that made their presence known and kind of moved on through. Now, I want to also quickly move a little bit further south and west. If we could go over to that little cell in Nebraska that was in eastern Cherry County, that's now moving into Brown County, Nebraska. That's still headed off to the north and east. We haven't forgotten about that. That's just been kind of meandering down there. We can likely see that from our Gregory camera if we pointed that down to the south. In fact, I'm actually going to give that a try and see if we can see that from the south. But we haven't forgotten about that cell. It's just been kind of sneaking around on the southern part of that border of South Dakota and Nebraska. So we'll try and pan that around down to the south, but we're going to watch that. There's the projected track from Cherry County into Brown County, and that's going to try and loop to the north and east, maybe headed toward Gregory and Charles Mixed County first, assuming it continues to kind of loop around to the north and east at that nice little curve.
Yeah, let's go to our camera view here from
pan over.
Yep, this is Gregory. So again, yeah, kind of looking down into Nebraska. Again, that's a storm cell that's a little ways down there, but it's actually another one that could be another problem maker if it holds together, as it's been pretty strong tonight down there. And again, that would maybe sneak up into Charles Mix or areas of Bonham counties within the next couple of hours. So we'll continue to watch for that. While we're on these cameras, by the way, let's do another little round-robin tour of these things. This is a view. Let's go to Redfield. I wanted to bring that one up because folks in Redfield are kind of in the middle of some of these cells. Again, things are kind of darkening up. There's some rain just starting to fall there as the severe weather is just a little bit to your west. Miller's another location that's been kind of in the middle of some of this. At the point that we can see there this evening, again, the darkening skies, a lot of it a little east of Miller tonight. But again, another vantage point we can watch. As far as the other cameras go, right now, things have calmed down a little bit.
A few weeks ago, and she's got more buzzers than any.
That's given no signal, that just goes to decide to commit a violent crime. I don't know how you do that.
You might be wondering, do these guys ever fear that their loved ones could be victims of a mass shooting? The answer is yes. They think about it all the time.
By the way, my children were home educated. We had drills at our own home for someone trying to break into our house.
What were those like?
Well, I saw someone show up on our porch at about 11 or 12 o'clock one night, unannounced.
Okay. And so did your kids in that moment prepare your firearms?
Yes, because when I looked through the door, I said, gun up. My wife goes to one room, she grabs the gun, the kids go back. My daughter she was, I don't know, 9, 10, 11. She had a .32 caliber in her bedroom, and we had them gunned up and prepared. We trained them that if they hear my voice, obviously it's time to lay the weapon down before I went to that part of the house. If they didn't hear my voice, someone was going to get shot, or my wife's voice, or their sibling's voice.
Okay, so part of the drill is you walk through the house, and what you're saying, like, I'm walking towards your bedroom.
Yeah, I'm waiting for their acknowledgement because I don't get shot.
Wow. See, that to me seems like a scary way to live.
Well, the scarier way to live is what would it be like had the person penetrated inside the house and harmed me? What would that be? What would that psychology be for my children?
We went to a gun range to get the views of people who shoot but are not activists.
I have guns at home. I'm at the gun range to go shoot guns now. But they need to go back to before when it was not as easy to get a gun.
We have 2 guns. We have a 20-gauge shotgun for home defense, and then we just got an AR-15. There's a lot of common sense gun laws and stuff that I support, that a lot of people I know support. You know, I've held the same kind of views on guns for a while, although I have never necessarily had the strong desire to go out and purchase and own a gun until recently.
There's so much division in the United States right now, and I don't know how you fix that. But you can't have people throwing the gasoline on the fire, too. You know?
And you think gun restrictions would be gas on the fire?
Yes.
We're not gun nuts, we're liberty nuts. The only reason we're concerned about guns is that's the only thing that protects the rest of the constitutional rights. And that's why the founders put it in there. And
why didn't they make it number 1?
Because free speech is number 1. And free speech is being assaulted in America.
Why isn't the Second Amendment stopping it?
Because if it gets that bad, then it's going to be in the streets. That's why I'm working so hard politically, because we have to solve these problems.
Ellie Reeve, CNN, Oklahoma City.
Like that gentleman said, our basic disagreement in this country is how to stop the shooting. We'll be right back.
He's got to drive it. You got to take that steering wheel. Oh, nice. Oh, my goodness. Look at the...
To the front of the net. It's led to a 5-2 lead. And Kemper pulled
for LNG infrastructure.
We need some more power. An operator climbs into the excavator.
Viewer shared several pictures of storm damage, with several structures either damaged or destroyed. Power outages have all
shortly for Aberdeen, and we're still getting these wind gusts of 70 to 80. They might be down maybe just a hair, but still very strong. And the threat tracker, let me bring this back up here so we get our latest scan. And again, there's likely some hail, but that strong wind is still making its way through. So be prepared for that. I would hope that some of this might relax a little bit. You know, that's what we hope every time we get a scan on these storms. If they'll settle down a little bit, that's always very helpful. But we'd rather be a little cautious and let you know exactly what's going on there and what the potential could be, given what's been. And it has been a storm system of frequently seeing these 70, 80 mile an hour plus gusts coming through that area. So that's a severe thunderstorm warning for Edmonds, southeastern Edmonds, southwestern Brown, northwestern Spink, and a big chunk of Fulton counties in the middle of that wind core and that big Boeing structure. This is a very large storm. It has other segments attached to it to the south, and that leg of the storm is also now warned here with that area just east of Miller, northwest of Huron tonight. That is another severe thunderstorm warning. That one, Adam, in effect until 9:15.
Yeah, that one is indicative of 60-mile-per-hour gusts and the potential to see upward of ping-pong ball-sized hail northeast of Wessington, northwest of Wolsey as well. Not so much for wind. That has again been toward the Fulton warned storm, not to mention what we've been seeing toward the Sioux Falls area. We also had a report coming in from Sioux Falls where portions of the roof of a hangar actually were removed due to the wind that moved on through. So that's up toward the airport where we had that damage come on in with that 82-mile-per-hour gust.
Yeah, and that's of course when this all came through here, just you know, within the hour. Now, right now, of course, that has now moved east, but there's that 82-mile-an-hour wind gust at the airport. So, a lot of wind associated with some of these individual storms tonight. Looking at what's going on right now, 2 minutes before the hour, there's Pipestone, Woodstock, Holland, you can see quite a bit going on here on radar. Now, in terms of the wind, I would probably pick on the area near Edgerton a little bit more right now. Of course, you got to remember, when we get on the other side of the storm, then the wind, the way that the colors show on the screen, they go the other way. But we're still measuring the wind velocity there. That's a lot going on there at close to 80 miles per hour. So Edgerton, certainly just on the edge of some of these new warnings that are coming out. I would expect that there'll be additional storms moving in that direction here shortly, as this wind, at least at the radar height, very strong. Again, that warning is in effect all the way out to Slayton. So that whole area of, let's say, from Holland down to Pipestone, down to Edgerton, and then connecting the dots toward even Laverne on the very southern flank of that particular severe thunderstorm warning. And again, the intensity is certainly there, building across southwest Minnesota. And since we've had a past history here, Adam, of some really strong winds in here, again, it's highly recommended that you get to a sturdy shelter. And we don't want you driving out in these storms, because obviously flying debris can easily be a problem with any of these damaging wind gusts tonight. And so, again, a lot of storm reports. They're going to continue to trickle into the storm center, so we'll keep referencing these as we go through the night. There is that destructive severe thunderstorm warning for Fulton County.
And then also into northwestern Spink County and headed into southwestern Brown County. Speaking of that storm, or at least that particular area, near the Vayland area, south-southeast, we did get some golf ball-sized hail out of the southern fringe of that particular segment. That was southeast of Miller, near Wessington, in that neck of the woods where we had that golf ball-sized hail report. And that lines up perfectly near, there's Vayland right there, just along the highway. Southeast of that was where we got the report of golf ball-sized hail, and that was right around then, right around 8:40, where they had the confirmed report just as it was making its way into the Wessington area. Now, Sioux Falls is putting out a new warning for Beadle County. You're going to see that include the Huron area in just a moment. So they're going to kind of build off of that to the east, and that's also going to include Walsey. That'll be in place until 9:45 p.m. where they can see upward of $50 size hail. So there's the new warning. There's the new box for that goes off into Huron and again over into Walsey as well. To a lesser extent, we are also still seeing a couple of stronger thunderstorms to the east along the highway east of Iroquois toward De Smet, also down a little bit south of Huron along the highway itself as well. Seeing a few more of those strong to severe thunderstorms, but a trio of warnings east of Miller, right along the highway toward Wessington, into Walsey, and now again into Huron, this newest one until 9:45 p.m. For the potential to see upward of $50 sized hail. That's kind of the lesser, if you will, threat compared to the northern flank of this same system where we've been seeing those 80 to 85 mile per hour gusts. But if you're in Huron, if you're in Walsey, if you're in that portion of the area, you need to get inside, as we do have that potential to see at least some stronger winds upward around 60 miles per hour, not to mention those $50 sized hailstones, at least being indicated by radar. And Brian, I know you're working on getting our Huron camera up and running to see what we can see, and just from what we have, we do at least get that very impressive view of our storm in question. That's what we continue to move on through.
Yeah, we've got, well, a few different things here. I'm going to try to see if I can pop up these, and bear with me, folks, here. We're just going to see what we can find here on our camera network. Again, that's the view on things there from our storm tracker system. The other thing is, while we're on these cameras, I just noticed out of the corner of my eye that pier camera.
Up to the northwest on the upper left-hand side of your screen.
Yep, that's certainly the backside of the storm, and sometimes these get to be pretty impressive, don't they, folks? Let me pan that view over here for just a moment so you can see what we are seeing here. And quite a night of weather, isn't it, folks? Looking at, again, that particular area there as the storms exit the pier area tonight.
Yep. So I'm trying to get the Huron camera going up here. We have a little bit of a delay in terms of, there it is. There's the live footage. So that's what we're looking at right now. That's from our Huron camera.
Yes, and again, severe thunderstorm warning now in effect there. So please take shelter. And, yep, I would just be at least aware of the fact that that particular storm, not as strong, but it is definitely strong enough to prompt a warning as we speak. So with that in mind, again, this is one of those situations where, again, we're going to continue to watch all of these pieces coming together. I want to just check here our storm reports, too. I'm just looking at things that we're seeing right now. Again, folks, there's some various pictures coming in to UShare. If you have a spot that you would like to take a picture of some of the storm damage and it's safe to do so, UShare at KELOLAND.com, and we will be putting together a collection of reports and various things for the 10 o'clock news. But obviously, look at all these dots. I mean, now we're really coming in with all of these storm reports. Wind, 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 a lot of it. Pier, 70 and almost 80-mile-an-hour winds in Pier tonight. 70 to 80 there to the west out toward Midland. There's one near Bunker, South Dakota, 85 miles per hour. And in Midland, 83. We could keep going. There's just so many of these. It's hard to get to all of them, but many, many areas of severe weather. Aberdeen, well, you haven't had severe weather yet, but I'm afraid to say you're probably one of the next spots. We're still watching the edge of that Boeing structure, and boy, does that wind ever pick up. It's through Crestbard now. It's coming in just southwest of Warner, and if you are in that area, this is your time to make sure that you're in a place of safety, because these winds can be pretty strong. Again, looking at the variability on these things, but tonight we've had easily... Yep, that number that just popped up, 76 miles per hour, easily could be occurring there. On the other side of KELOLAND, let's take a look at the strongest winds going on right now in southwest Minnesota.
Hold the phone on that one, Brian. Aberdeen is now under a severe thunderstorm warning. Funny you were mentioning them, that it's going to be any minute. That any minute is now. You're going to see that warning pop up right there. As a new severe thunderstorm warning, still with that potential for 80-plus mile-per-hour gusts. This is for Brown, Edmonds, Falk, McPherson, and Spink counties until 10 o'clock. And again, this includes the Aberdeen area.
Okay,
this is still continuing to move on up at a pretty decent clip. This is moving northeast at 60 miles per hour. And again, so this is going to be headed up toward Warner. This is going to head into Ipswich. To a lesser extent over just west of Webster. And of course, as we've been mentioning, this includes the Aberdeen area. So consider this as your heads up to get inside and get ready for some potentially very, very destructive wind.
Yeah, the best advice, just get into some sturdy shelters here and let this thing go through. We don't want you out on the roads, and obviously busy summer evenings. People are out and about. We know that, but now's your time. We want you just to get inside, because this one in particular has been really the worst storm of the bunch. We've had a lot of them tonight, a lot of them with wind, but this one definitely has been seeming to give the worst characteristics on Doppler radar. And again, that's kind of where we're at here at 9:07. Okay, so let's bring back the big view here tonight. I'm going to just kind of recap, kind of reset things for us. You're watching our live severe weather coverage on KELOLAND TV. We've had several destructive severe thunderstorm warnings in effect tonight, so we treat those as if they are tornado-like in their nature, and when they produce hurricane force winds, we know that all too well this year. We've been through these things many times. So at this moment, the next communities in line here, Aberdeen is the #1 concern right now into Brown County. I would also say at this point in the evening, Marshall, Minnesota, another spot we're pretty concerned about. This storm has been, we referenced some winds coming out of Pipestone and moving east toward east of Ivanhoe tonight, where some pretty strong wind gusts have been included with this entire structure there. And then to a lesser degree, a couple of warnings there near Huron. Again, the storms there not quite as severe, but just reaching those thresholds as we speak. We'll keep an eye on Huron and the rest of Beetle County on that. And eventually, of course, that activity might even meander up toward Watertown eventually. And then, to recap things, we can't forget about this. This is a lone supercell down here in Nebraska. I know it may not seem like that's much of an issue for us, but if you kind of watch the movement of that, It's moving to the east-northeast, and if it holds together, you know, that can become a problem for Wagner, and eventually it could, you know, sneak up into parts of southeast South Dakota and become more problematic eventually. So we'll see what that entails over the course of the next couple of hours. But again, that's kind of a big overview of what's going on. Now let's hone in here a little bit. I want to take you back. Let's go to southwest Minnesota. Let's look at Marshall. Now, Minneota is in there. There's Ghent, and you can see right now the hail on that storm, probably a little worse there near Minneota at this point. This is our exclusive hail tracker, which says perhaps a little bit of that in there. Not as strong as it once was, but let's look at our winds, see if that is reflecting any changes here. And if we click on the Ghent area, again, we're a little ways out on the radar, but we've been getting gusts over 60s. So at this moment, that is still a pretty strong cell. And the numbers here, again, all around Lynn, Marshall, are pretty gusty. So we've got some severe thunderstorm warnings in effect there. And then farther down the line toward Chandler and Edgerton and Woodstock, there's probably some bigger numbers in there too. One thing I like to do, though, is I'll double check here before we scan that here. It looks like like Lake Wilson, I would say this is probably the core of this. And these numbers, you bet, they're coming up there pretty high, aren't they? 68, 75. Wouldn't necessarily, you know, that seems pretty reasonable given the storm history of that. So if you're in Lake Wilson, I would strongly recommend place of sturdy shelter right now. Even Slayton is in that warning box, along with Leota and Hardwick. Hardwick's on the southern flank of that storm. It looks like everything south of northwest Iowa is fine. No storms down that way. And Sioux Falls at the moment is quiet here, Adam.
Yeah, we'll just continue to keep an eye on that particular little cell that just moved out of Brown County, Nebraska, still packing quite the punch. We'll see if that continues to hold as it makes its way closer and closer to the Missouri River, southeastern portions of Gregory County, southern Charles Mix County. There's the hail tracker, and it has been producing a decent amount of hail as it moves east of Ainsworth and north of Bassett as well. So we're going to watch that. That's going to be just a sneaky little storm that'll try and make itself known. And yeah, our threat tracker picking up on 3-inch diameter hail or more. So we're talking about baseball-sized or even bigger, at least with that storm as of right now from our threat tracker. Now, they are just continuing to put out a few more warnings out toward Lyon and Murray County. New severe thunderstorm warning out in that neck of the woods. That's in place until 9:45 as we kind of take a look at the storm in Nebraska that could potentially cause some trouble if it's able to maintain its intensity. But just along and north of Marshall, it's where we have that new warning in place. It's going to move up toward Granite Falls, east of Canby, as we go into southwestern portions of Minnesota. So that also includes Yellow Medicine County.
Okay, yep, and those areas, again, that's in effect until 9:45. Now, let's go back to Aberdeen. Okay, so let's reset what's going on here. Again, a line of severe thunderstorms. Let's take a look at this. Now, we've got all sorts of things going on here. We got a fairly large line. Again, this thing is kind of split up a little bit, which is good.
I certainly hope that the handful of Republicans who are currently co-sponsors will withdraw their names. And I hope folks back home will call them and demand that they withdraw their names.
Now, I want to play something from Princeton professor Eddie Glaude today on MSNBC when he was asked about Juneteenth.
We see extremist forces on the rise, trying to, in every way, undermine our democracy. This anti-CRT movement. We need to understand the relationship between critical race theory and the replacement theory, that they go hand in hand, and voter suppression. They go hand in hand, because we saw it at the latter part of the 19th century as Jim Crow was taking root.
Newt, how is this not racist?
Well, of course it's racist. Most of the racism in America today is on the left, and frankly, replacement theory is a total lie. Virtually all of us favor legal immigration. Virtually all of us agree with Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., who said it's the content of our character, not the color of our skin. Virtually all of us know that the bike tipping over in Delaware is a pretty good reflection of the way the entire federal government's tipping over. We just did a poll where 87% of the American people said that they wanted to restore the America that works. And I think that's what ultimately is going to create not a red tsunami, but a red, white, and blue tsunami, as you see Democrats, Republicans, Independents all coming together because things simply aren't working. You look at the price of everything, you look at the problems on the border, you look at the George Soros effort to create a pro-criminal class of district attorneys. Every time you turn around, you realize the left represents an America that will fail. And the only answer to that is the American people.
Try to take on the gunmen. Of course, earlier we were led to believe that maybe one reason they did not do that is because they were potentially overpowered, that the gunman had an AR-15. But again, now we know, based on security video that we have been able to review, multiple officers had high-powered weapons as well as protective equipment.
Well, we are seeing in that frame of the video that you obtained right now, two high-powered rifles. There's one on the lower right corner right behind the shield, and then we're seeing another officer with another one on the left side of that frame as you look at it at home. And there could be more at that point. And David Goodman, this information, we know this information only because you reporters are obtaining it. There hasn't been any more public disclosure of information by officials.
That's correct. I mean, one thing that we do know right now is that the head of the DPS, head of the state police in Texas, is scheduled to testify tomorrow in Austin, and that would be his first public comments in weeks, really since he gave the press conference in which he had said that Pete Arredondo, the head of the small police force for the schools in Uvalde, had made the wrong decision. And since then, we've had no information officially come out of this investigation, much to the frustration of not just us reporters, but of families and really people all across the country who are watching this. And so we've had to go and find it ourselves. And reporters like Tony and myself have been really looking into this and trying to get this stuff out, because it is very important to know, when did they come into this school? We were able to report on Friday that actually one of the officers from the Uvalde Police Department was on scene outside the school with a high-powered weapon and had a potential shot at the gunman at that moment and decided not to take it because he said, that there were children in the background and he might hit them. And now that was obviously a fateful decision, but that officer was on scene with a AR-15 style weapon that law enforcement has within minutes. And so this really isn't a question of the police not getting on the scene fast enough and not having the right equipment on scene quickly. It's what they did with that information, or what they did with that equipment, excuse me, and what they didn't do, really, more importantly.
Yeah, and that story, David, about the officer who had a moment, had a second to decide, do I fire, do I not fire, and worried about the children in the background, that's an understandable description of a situation in which the officer chose not to fire. We can understand that, and that officer communicated that to others in that chain of command. And Tony, we're not getting that same kind of thing from Chief Arredondo, who knows more about this than anyone else that could be questioned. And tomorrow's hearing, the chief of the Uvalde Police Department is scheduled to testify, and as I understand it, testify publicly, but there's no hint that Chief Arredondo is being asked any questions by anyone.
That's absolutely the case. I mean, certainly investigators are trying and journalists continue to try. He has made some public comments to our colleagues at the Texas Tribune. But to be clear, much of what he said and did and the actions he took were having to learn from body camera video from other police officers, not even his own body camera video, but from other law enforcement who were in proximity to him as all of this was unfolding, who were able to pick up his audio as he was trying to find a janitor to get the keys and to possibly strategize about what to do next. I mean, one thing that was also striking to me in this new timeline that I was able to review is that at one point he did actually talk about or float the idea of taking the gunman down through a window, and yet we didn't see that acted upon. And so still so many unanswered questions here about everything that happened.
And Tony, in those quotes that you mentioned about what you have from Arredondo talking about shooting through the window, he sounds just like it's just a wild guess, like maybe we should try this. It doesn't sound in the dialogue that we have from that like this is a carefully considered professional judgment.
Don't take Ozempic if you or your family.
Under 10 minutes, probably 5 to 10 minutes. But with that amount of wind, if that's going to actually root down, and we're planning on 80-mile-an-hour winds there. And again, that's what we're seeing, and getting at least the radar data suggesting that. Okay, so again, this has been one of those nights where these things kind of pulse back and forth. But every time we get a stronger scan like that, it is important to make sure that we are clear about how this thing's behaving. Let me go back and do a time lapse. This might be helpful for those of you in Aberdeen so you can see what's coming your way. There it is, coming right on into town. So very, very strong storm. Let me pause that for a moment. I'll show you the traditional view so you can see that wall of rain. All of course, the storm element is right there through Warner right now. And very, very strong storm. There's no question there with that. Back we go to the latest information. Again, we can probe some other numbers here. So there's a 73, there's a 70. Again, that bigger one that we just pointed out that could be, you know, anywhere from 80 to 100. But let's hope more of the 70. The 70 mile is bad enough. And certainly the worst of that is just to the southwest of Aberdeen. Okay, so again, that's where we're at on this particular storm. Warner kind of as a whole flank in here.
These damn won't stop. Now Subway's refreshing their cake. They are the #1
body.
When seconds count, turn to the team you trust. Kelo Live Doppler HD.
See when storms will develop. Track approaching weather down to the minute. Using the only live, real-time radar.
Only one weather team delivers season after season. Kelo Live Doppler HD. The new generation of storm.
You kind of consider that to be hurricane force winds, or, you know, they're pretty close. So that's what we know. We can see that at the cloud level. That's, again, running about 500 or 600 feet up above in that cloud. There's some pretty strong winds racing in as we speak. We can hope that not all of that reaches the ground, but as Sioux Falls found out, you know, the airport had 80-mile-an-hour winds this evening when some storms blew through. Speaking of those storms, now that whole line is moving east into southwest Minnesota. Here's the latest view from Marshall, the Pipestone, a very strong cluster of storms tonight. Again, several severe thunderstorm warnings. Murray County in effect. Let me take the lightning tracker off for the moment. We'll kind of clear the view there. That's in effect until about 9:30. We also have in line here, it looks like the rest of northeastern Murray County until 9:45. Lyon County, Minnesota till 9:45. There's actually a couple of sets of warnings up here. Marshall's included in one of those. And then Yellow Medicine County in west central Minnesota. The winds have been pretty strong at times on this. We're a little farther away from the radar, so we got to be a little careful on when we measure these particular winds. But again, some of these have been fairly strong, you know, easily getting some 50 to 60 mile-an-hour gusts even there. So we definitely want to make sure that we're keeping track of that. New updates from you, Adam, here.
Yeah, still looking at that potential to see upward of 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts on the low end, including a recent report out of Norbeck where we did get that 63 mile per hour gust. Also Beadle County with a report of 65 miles per hour. We're still getting anywhere from 60 to 70, again, on the low end, not just in Han County, but also with the storms that you had mentioned before. that are moving into southwestern portions of Minnesota. And this was toward Lyon County, Minnesota, 68 miles per hour. That was near Taunton as well. We are still seeing those severe thunderstorm warnings hold until 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Those have not really been updated in terms of intensity, just more so paring it down a little bit more. We just got a new warning. This will be for Beadle and Kingsbury County. As we continue to move on into the night, this will be until 10 p.m. So if you are just to the west of DeSmet, that is going to be your warning out that way, again, along U.S. Highway 14. So there it is right there, just along and east of Huron, where we've got that new severe thunderstorm warning. 60-mile-per-hour gusts observed, upward of ping-pong ball to golf ball-sized hail as indicated by radar. So that is going to continue to move on through to the northeast at 60 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's a strong storm, isn't it, here tonight? And I know from our Huron live camera, we were kind of looking at some of that too here this evening here, just to see how things are moving along there. And again, that's just on the edge of Huron tonight. Some pretty large hail moving through another section of Keloland that doesn't need any more severe weather this season. But here we go again, at least a section there of Beadle County. I want to go back to that storm up near Aberdeen. The other little thing about that, and I wanted to make sure we clear this up here, that this cell now moving into Aberdeen, and I know the winds are certainly blowing in as we speak. It's coming right in across the city of Aberdeen. That has been trained weather spotters reporting this with these 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts moving into Aberdeen. And as that comes through, you can expect any number of things with damage to roofs, windows, vehicles, and tree damage, even power outages. Anything is on the table when you deal with these kind of winds. So again, place of safety right now. We've been talking about this for quite a while as the storm is entering Aberdeen and passing through the city as we speak. And again, it is a long, long history of severe weather occurring tonight there in that area near Aberdeen. So again, it's been a very strong storm. I'm kind of going through a couple of features here. Just bear with me, folks, on that. I want to bring up our threat tracker here for a moment. This has been a very useful feature tonight, just kind of recapping or putting together some of these wind threats along with the hail tracks. And obviously there's been up to quarter-size hail with that storm, which is not as strong on the hail part.
It's low end.
Yep, but it's definitely the wind threat that's the worst problem. And these collection of things are still out there. As we're talking about the big picture too, I did want to go back and reflect just quickly on that storm down in Nebraska. We took a little time earlier to talk about that. The only reason we're mentioning that, because it really is wound up. This thing down here has probably baseball to softball size hail. I don't like that one bit. We're hoping it'll decrease as it gets up into southern Keloland, but it's right now just hugging the South Dakota-Nebraska border, just a little south of, Fairfax and Bonesteel. There's Bonesteel right there. And, you know, if we measure that from Bonesteel, it's probably about 25 miles southwest. So, again, we got a little time to track that. We won't necessarily do a lot on that right now. But for viewers that do catch our signal down there, please be advised of that. There's a potent severe thunderstorm, and it's kind of all by itself. It's just, well, just as I talk about it, here we go.
There's the new warning that just came up.
They just put Boyd County. So basically that runs right up to the edge of Gregory County. So yeah, if you're in Pickstown, I would say let's watch that. It could easily cross over into South Dakota between, let's say, Pickstown and Springfield on that. So here are more towns. I'll put those up. There's Marty. Here's Springfield over here. So yeah, that can be a problem, and we'll see what it looks like, you know, in an hour if it's still holding together at its current intensity. But it is definitely a strong storm, and it has a lot of things kind of on its own. So that's why it's a big one down there at this present moment.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the National Weather Service down that way toward North Platte is picking up on the potential for, at least from them, golf ball sized hail within that storm. But using our product, we can at least see that there is that potential for easily higher diameter hailstones from within the higher portions of that storm. And as you mentioned, it's by itself. It doesn't have to compete with any other storms down that way to take any of that energy that's available in the atmosphere away from it. So you can just basically go into that pool of very, very buoyant air to allow for that vertical development. So the end result is going to be just a storm that basically can just have its run in northern Nebraska. So it would not surprise me at all if we were to see that make its way over the river and eventually into southeastern portions of South Dakota.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to watch closely. Back to this Aberdeen cell again. We're tracking all these strong winds moving through Aberdeen. So again, that's in progress right now as you see the returns on radar coming right into Aberdeen. Groton as well, just on the edge of that severe thunderstorm warning, but still watching some pretty intense cells there. And this whole thing extends down the line, doesn't it, folks, here down into Spink County and then over here toward Huron, where we pick up this, a really nasty set of hail, probably going on near Yale. When we've had this kind of a feature, we've seen some pretty strong hail. So that's one little pocket right now that would be grabbing our attention. If you are in northeastern Beadle County or extreme northwestern parts of Kingsbury County, please be advised of that, as this is the hail tracker system, and there it is right there in the white in the middle of your screen. Again, that's our hail tracker this evening. Okay, our time is now just about 9:30. So here we are, and again, just kind of keying in on what's going on tonight. This is the worst of the bunch, severe thunderstorm warnings. Again, we'll kind of analyze this whole thing moving through Aberdeen. Depending on what this does next, will kind of dictate where our coverage goes next. Obviously, when we've had 80-mile-an-hour winds, again, that's tornado-like winds, and so we've been on the air because of these repeated destructive severe thunderstorm warnings tonight. As of the present moment, as of, let's see, about 2 minutes ago, severe thunderstorm warning continues for Brown County. And just going through some of the very latest portions of this, again, portions of the warning west have been allowed to expire for parts of Spink County. So that's good news.
You're going to notice that they're going to fill in the gap with, between Aberdeen and Watertown with a new severe thunderstorm warning.
Yep,
right there.
is.
So,
yep.
Yeah, that's for portions of Brown, Clark, Day, and Spink County. Inch diameter hail, 60-mile-per-hour gusts with that particular segment. That's going to race on to the northeast at 55 miles per hour. So, again, Highway 12 toward Webster, Bristol, Crocker, Lilly. You'll need to keep a very close eye on this as this continues to move up. Even we'll put the heads up out there toward Roslyn and Sisseton, for that matter, as this continues to push on up to the north and east.
Yeah, that's certainly good to mention there. Again, this particular segment of the storm not quite as strong as the one up here near Aberdeen, but, you know, it's still showing a lot of severity. So tonight, just please be advised of that. I would say at this point, too, seek sturdy shelter if you are in any of these communities downstream. Roslyn in particular, Webster, easily going to be in line with some of this moving through. There are the timelines on your storm tracker. Waubay at 10:15, Veblen at 10:26. Again, that storm, as it stands right now, though, is not as destructive, if you will. There's certainly some strong winds in here, but we're talking more in that 60-mile-an-hour range, and that's a different category. But we still, while we're on the air and still covering what's going on in Aberdeen, we want to make sure we're clear about that. So here we are, again, with this time at 9:32. Again, we're kind of collecting some information about Aberdeen and the severity of the storm there. Obviously, passing over the city of Aberdeen, we've been tracking several of these pockets of winds that have been really racing through. And again, as this whole thing moves through, let me go back in the last 30 minutes. And there's that pocket of wind coming up from Crestbard and coming up here, and boy, it's been a rough season, hasn't it? Out here, I know here just a number of days ago, we tracked a really bad storm around Roscoe and how these damaging winds have come through. So it looks like Aberdeen this time around, definitely in the swath of some of this stronger wind. And again, that's the measurement we have right now, just crossing over the city of Aberdeen. And as we speak, headed up toward Columbia, Barnard, and any of these locations in the northern part of the county, probably up next on that as we speak. So please be advised.
For what it's worth, a little bit of good news. The latest update with the severe thunderstorm warning up toward the Aberdeen area, they have backed off on the wind finally. That, as per indications from radar, they have brought it back down to the 60 to 70 mile per hour range for any gusts that are moving on through. Of course, we could still see some locally higher amounts as you go north and east of Aberdeen in Brown County, but that is at least a promising development that that particular segment may finally, after multiple hours, be losing a little bit of steam. But we're going to continue to watch it because this has had a history of flaring back up. There's still, of course, that other portion of the line that's headed toward the Sisseton area within the next hour or so. This is certainly far from done. And of course, we still have that little cell lurking in Nebraska, which they've also updated to have confirmed reports of 70 mile per hour gusts and golf ball sized hail as that cell continues to move on up to the north and east.
Okay, so as it stands right now, based on what we're seeing on radar, we've kind of now dropped back just a hair underneath some of these bigger thresholds. So that's probably going to allow us a chance to kind of regroup here a little bit. And given the severity of the storms tonight, we're going to do that because we're collecting a lot of information for our 10 o'clock broadcast. So if anything pops up that's stronger, we are going to be right back on the air. But again, with these 60-mile-an-hour winds moving into the Webster area, we're going to kind of let that ride on the bottom of your screen for now. Same thing as the jurisdiction goes east of Marshall. That storm is going to be heading up toward Wilmer. The other one on the south side, on the Nebraska side, is not quite up into our viewing area yet. That could change. So there's still a lot going on tonight. So that's the situation that we see it as of right now. The good news is at least things have begun to calm down a little bit. We'll keep a close eye on Aberdeen. If anything changes, we will be popping back on the air as that one edges closer to the North Dakota border. But that's how things stand as of this minute. So with that said, with Adam Rutt here, I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens. We will send you back to our regular programming and breaks, and we'll be back as the weather warrants.
Protect your assets. The buck stops here. Your Money Matters. Weeknights on Keloland News at 10. Your Money Matters is sponsored by I-29 RV Supercenter.
Should we... You're a princess.
Rapid City.
Political news when you want it with Dakota News Now.
A severe thunderstorm watch remains in effect until
strong winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. The tornado warning that's going to be going into effect.
With over 50 years of experience, the Dakota News Now First Alert Weather Team gives you the most accurate forecast when you want it.
Welcome back.
And a broken stump is holding.
So creepy. Joining us now, tech expert Jessica Naziri, owner of TechSesh, and Alex Hammerstone of Advisory Solutions at Trusted Sec, which is an information security consulting company. Okay, thank you both for being with us. Jessica, I want to start with you. First thing that always gets me is you're in your house, you're talking about, like, let's say, oh, I love cheesecake. What's my favorite cheesecake? You're talking about vacation. I think I want to go to Italy. Next thing you know, you get the ads that pop up on your phone advertising those places. Jessica, are they really listening to us?
We are tracked more often and in more meaningful ways than you think. The internet is tracking virtually everything that we do, from web browsers to connected devices in our homes. Now, the thing is, it doesn't mean your data collected is at risk. The real question is, how and why is our data being collected? You know, it's our data. So really that question that you're asking me, is this really happening? It's actually happening. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's getting better and better and better. But for me, it's why is it okay to spy on your customers just because it fits in your marketing strategy? This all comes down to money.
Yeah, and it is spying. You're right. It's creepy and it's spying. And Alex, I mean, I think most people have figured out that they're sort of listening, and we now know that the ads pop up, and that's creepy enough. But there's things that we don't know about. For example, I mean, your car cars are so technologically advanced now. Are cars actually tracking where we're going and giving that information to someone?
Some absolutely are. It really depends on the model and how new it is and what features it has. And I think the thing is that for so many years, there was so much data, but now we're starting to, and have for a while, had the power to kind of aggregate and process all this data and create correlations and inferences. And so all the data is collected from all these different sources and used to put together these pictures of individuals. And absolutely one form is your vehicle. It knows where you are. And it's interesting because if you look back, remember when they realized that the real value of Sears was in its real estate, not necessarily its retail operations, right? And a lot of companies are trying to realize that the real value that they have and the ways to make money are in the data they possess, not necessarily their traditional or standard missions. And so companies are really trying to capitalize on that.
And so, Alex, do we have any choice? I mean, do we just sign away our rights when we buy the phone or when we buy the car and you've got this 12-page contract and you don't read the whole thing? I mean, is it buried in there and they're allowed to do this?
It can. There was a performance art project a while back where somebody printed out all the different user license agreements everybody signs in a given year. And it's tens of thousands of pages, right? No one reads all that. And so oftentimes we are agreeing to these things even if we don't know. But really it comes down to, are we willing to trade our privacy for the convenience that a lot of these services and products provide? I mean, for me, it's, one of the oldest ones are, of course, supermarket loyalty cards. On Sunday we had porterhouse steaks. And if I wanted half off those steaks, I had to scan my card, right? So to me, is it worth saving half the price of dinner, for them to know what I bought and be able to kind of track that? For me, yes. But in other situations, it may not be.
Ah, that's a good one. I never thought about that. So there's a secret behind those loyalty cards. It's not just so you get the discount. They're actually keeping track of what you're buying. Very interesting. Jessica, so again, we know about the ads. Okay, maybe our cars telling someone where we're going. But, I mean, this is sort of dangerous in a way, isn't it? I mean, are there parts of this that could actually put us in danger?
Well, on one end, yes, we've seen a practice which gives police access to victims' phone data, medical history, social service records, notes on their private discussions with therapists, and historic school records. So this can definitely be a way where it can just police can get information. And so we even saw ourselves during BLM. Police had access to people who were at the marches, and a lot of people found out that their data was being taken, just by police getting access to that data. So it's like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, and we've done the AirPod stories, women getting stalked because their exes keep track of them with the AirPods. And Alex, it goes beyond, you mentioned groceries, and they want to keep track of what products you buy, but they even want to know about your emotions. Like if you're Googling, I'm afraid of dying, or I have a fear of flying. I mean, there's actually data out there where they want to know the feelings that you're having. Why is that?
So it can help marketers, right? I mean, it helps them determine what they want to sell to you or what services, whether professional services or medications, or they may create correlations and make inferences that people who, have a certain condition or certain emotions are more likely to buy a certain product. And that way they can market that product to you. There may be some more benevolent reasons, maybe so it can serve you ads, for services that can help you if you're having issues and things like that. But really, at the end of the day, it's almost always about money. People talk about data being the new oil, and organizations really, they're looking to collect this data and find ways to monetize it and, really make you the product. You are the product.
And Alex, you made a good point. I mean, is this just sort of the price that we pay for certain conveniences that we have? Because the more we're tracked, some things become more convenient because they sort of learn our methods and behaviors. But Jessica, if you're saying absolutely not, I want no part in this, are there any easy tips, Jessica, out there that we can do to sort of prevent these spies, as you called them, from watching what we're doing?
Well, when you're online,
what do we do? Tell me.
when you're on social media, I definitely say browse incognito mode, consider a VPN, use a private search engine like DuckDuckGo. But first and foremost, just remember, anytime you download an app, we already discussed this, you're giving away your information. So you want to decline those cookies. And if you're forced to accept those cookies, just ask yourself, is this information something that I want to keep private? Do I want to accept? Do I not want to accept? And every time you do agree to something, you are giving something away. It's not free. Just like Alex just said.
Yeah, the cookies are a good one because those cookies seem like trouble. I mean, you go to these websites and they're always asking you to accept the cookies. Last question, Alex. So many of us work from home now. We've got our company computers at home that we're using. Are our companies tracking us, and what kind of information could they be using of ours?
So there's a broad range of tracking. Some of the tracking is actively looked at, and some is only looked at if there's an issue or an investigation. But, at minimum, most organizations can tell when you log on for the day and what resources you access. They need to be able to do that for security reasons and accountability. But it really has gone further, and we've, kind of read and seen about a lot of organizations that are actually starting to track what people are doing, what they're clicking on, taking screen captures. During the pandemic, when there was a big move to work from home, there were some organizations that wanted to be able to keep people on video all day so that their boss could kind of check and make sure that they're working. I think that, kind of given the current employment environment where a lot of employers are scrambling for employees, they've had a much harder time getting people to accept that type of thing. But in the future, it may become more commonplace.
Yeah, listen, I think it's creepy. I think most people think it's creepy. But Jessica and Alex, thank you for at least telling us what's sort of going on behind the scenes that we don't even realize. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, still ahead tonight. Who needs DVRs when you can own an actual piece of your favorite TV show? You just need to know which dumpster to dive in. We'll get into it coming up.
Banfield, in association with Walgreens.
You're pretty particular about keeping a healthy body.
The event happens every year around the summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. It is a chance to fight the darkness of Alzheimer's through different fundraising activities. In Sioux Falls, for example, the Barrel House donating 10% of their sales today to the Alzheimer's Association.
The community supports us through everything. We've had so much luck through Hungry Hearts and so much luck through helping everybody through the pandemic and just keeping everything going and pushing. And every Monday it's our way to give back to the community.
The Barrel House typically gives back through events like this every Monday. Keeping an eye on a tornado warning for an area east of Huron. Phil takes a look when we come back.
Only one station offers over 6 hours of news daily. Get your news when you want it with Dakota News Now.
The Lighting Gallery at Montgomery's. Chandeliers, pendants, and more. Complimentary in-home design consultation with lighting design experts in Sioux Falls, Madison, Water.
Important time to do this as we're talking about this tornado moving northeast at 45. Okay, so we're going to be real specific about this. This is going to be from this point northeast at 45 miles per hour. So there it is. That puts Bryant 9:59 and Lake Norden by 10:15. Now, the other thing I'm going to bring up here, and I know everybody in Castlewood's going to be a little more edgy on this stuff, but it is kind of headed your way in that general vicinity. Now, it's a little ways off yet, but obviously, given the fact that some of these communities have been hit by tornadoes this year, anytime we repeat these things, I just want to kind of give you a clear sense of what we're tracking, what we know, and for right now, that is the situation at hand. So again, it is a confirmed tornado warning. That's why the flashes on the screen, there's a few different colors popping up on the map right now. And again, this is a tornado warning area for the kind of the junction point here where Kingsbury County meets up with Hamlin and the southeastern part of Clark County. Okay, so that's our most concerning thing of the present minute. That's why we're on the air. This is a tornado that is on the ground. We've now had law enforcement. We've had...
Weather spotters also have confirmed it with the new warning that they put up with Hamlin and Clark County. So we've got two separate bits of confirmation. Tornado, again, on the ground, moving east at 45 miles per hour.
Okay, so moving, yes. And this is... Again, looking at your warning box here, Willow Lake's on the northern edge. Obviously, DeSmet's outside the warning here, but this spot right in here, there's been some rotation. It's not necessarily an overwhelmingly big rotation area, but...
It's a weather day. You know, we had the heat issues earlier on, but thankfully those are going away. But we're still dealing with a severe thunderstorm issue. So here's a look at the wide view. So it's not everywhere that's getting the rain. Right now, the most affected area here is northeast and let's say east central South Dakota, portions of Minnesota, and also northern Nebraska. So here's where the warnings are right now. All the yellow ones are severe thunderstorm warnings, and you can keep your eye on the bottom of the screen. We're scrolling that information constantly so you can see what the warnings are, what the counties and things like that, any new warnings that are coming out. But the one that we want to focus on right now is right here. Now, it's actually two separate warnings, but it's really just for one cell here. So it's portions of Kingsbury and, well, basically Kingsbury County there, and there's one a little farther to the north there. This is in effect until 10 o'clock Central Time here this evening, and then in fact, it's a confirmed tornado that was reported in by some law enforcement. Let me see if I can just modify this a little bit so I can show you that it also extends to the north here. So right here, another part of that severe thunderstorm warning. Let me clear this out of here. Can I do that? It's supposed to go away. Anyway, it didn't. So anyway, this is the tornado warning here. It extends northward into portions of, let's see, Clark County as well, and that's moving to the north and east at about 55 miles an hour. So it's a fast-moving little cell there that's moving off to the north and east. Let's take another radar tour here. So the Sioux Falls area, we had a severe thunderstorm warning earlier. That has moved away. These storms, you know, east of Marshall, Minnesota, and a little north of there are severe. And then we have this line of storms here that's moving off to the north and east, especially here between Huron and Brookings. That's the area that has a tornado warning, and keep your eye on the bottom of the screen for more info on that. Looks like the worst of it has moved out of the Aberdeen area itself. You had a severe thunderstorm warning. It's supposed to go till 10 o'clock, I believe, but I think the worst part is moved away from Aberdeen. And then we're watching this cell in portions of northern Nebraska. It is severe right in this area here. I believe that's KSFY County, if I'm not wrong, maybe Knox County. Anyway, that's moving to the north and east, the cell northeast of O'Neill. So these might hold together as they move northeast into southeastern South Dakota. We'll keep an eye on those, of course, for you. But the big deal now is the cooler and drier air coming in from the north and west. 50s and 60s central and western South Dakota, but we still have some 80s, even some 90s in eastern south parts of our area. Over into Minneapolis, it's still 94 right now, and it feels like 98 there. There's still quite a bit of humidity in the air, especially in eastern parts of the area with those dew points in the 60s and 70s, but look how they quickly drop off. 50s to lower 60s central and western South Dakota, and that drier air is going to make its way to the east, so that cooler and drier air that's moving in along the cold front, that's one of the reasons we're getting those big storms that are going on right now. So here's a look at the wind, kind of depending on where you are. If you have a thunderstorm nearby, you're going to have stronger wind. But the main thing to look at is going to be the change in wind direction as we head into tomorrow morning. It's going to be coming in from the west and northwest. Oh, this is the morning about 7 o'clock, so the wind about 5 to 15 miles an hour. It does pick up a bit by noontime and still pretty breezy at 5 o'clock. By this time tomorrow night, the wind does die down, but notice the direction. The wind is coming from the northwest. That means it's going to be a drier flow of air. It's going to feel so nice tomorrow. And I think it's going to be nice again on Wednesday and even on Thursday. Then we'll start to have some humidity rising back up on Friday. So here's Futurecast. I think the model is a little too quick on getting the storms out of here, but that idea is correct. But I think we'll still have some activity going on at 10 o'clock in northeastern South Dakota and more so around Marshall, Minnesota, and maybe around the Yankton area too. But the trend is correct for this to be going away overnight. So it's not going to be an all-night event. Tomorrow morning, temperatures will be for the most part in the 60s and maybe still a little sticky in eastern parts of the area. But as the day goes on, we'll get that drier air moving in.
Hillshire Farm, made
that's moving up to the northeast at around 50 miles per hour. So this whole segment still continuing to move on through, but it is going to eventually get on out of here, move on over the border. But the next areas we're going to be watching, other than obviously what we've had with our confirmed tornado, so down toward Bryant as well as Hayti, and even just a heads up toward the Castlewood area. If you're up toward Sisseton, Roberts County, I'd be keeping an eye on that. A segment that's continuing to move on up to the northeast up your way as well. The northernmost portions of I-29. Also Clark, you're experiencing some nasty weather right now on the southern portion of that line. Watertown seeing a couple of storms. This is something that's going to have a lot of different facets to it as we continue to move on through. So there is, if you look very carefully, right along, if we can zoom in just north of Irwin, if you look very carefully, you can see that different shade of purple. That's another one of the features that we have on live Doppler radar that will show that we have a confirmed tornado on the ground, as opposed to your typical red box that you would see, which would just show a garden variety, for lack of better terms, tornado warning. So when you see that shade of purple, that indicates confirmed tornado on the ground, and that is what we have, again, up toward the Bryan area, about ready to jump over the border north of Irwin as well, with that warning that stays in place until 10 p.m. for Kingsbury County. But then over the border into the Bryan area, that warning is in place until 10:15, as they've extended that just a little bit longer.
All right, we are continuing our live coverage here. It is 7 minutes before the hour. The latest here, if you're just joining us here before the 10 o'clock news, obviously we're going to have some weather spill in here as we are still on the air with now a confirmed tornado on the ground. We've had law enforcement, we've had weather spotters confirming this. And again, at this moment, we're awaiting word for the very latest. But given what we're seeing on Doppler radar right now,
Can you recognize the 10 signs of stroke?
Live Doppler radar that will show that we have a confirmed tornado on the ground, as opposed to your typical red box that you would see, which would just show a garden variety, for lack of better terms, tornado warning. So when you see that shade of purple, that indicates confirmed tornado on the ground, and that is what we have, again, up toward the Bryan area, about ready to jump over the border north of Irwin as well, with that warning that stays in place until 10 p.m. for Kingsbury County. But then over the border into the Bryan area, that warning is in place until 10:15, as they've extended that just a little bit longer.
All right, we are continuing our live coverage here. It is 7 minutes before the hour. The latest here, if you're just joining us here before the 10 o'clock news, obviously we're going to have some weather spill in here as we are still on the air with now a confirmed tornado on the ground. We've had law enforcement, we've had weather spotters confirming this. And again, at this moment, we're awaiting word for the very latest. But given what we're seeing on Doppler radar right now, here's the very latest. And I want to bring up a couple of these extra spots here, because obviously we've got a lot of products I can kind of look at here quickly here on the fly as we're analyzing that. But I would definitely, hint at Bryant. If we still have a tornado, it's going to be right in this area here where we've got some twisting of the winds, basically where the green and the red are coming together. There are some signatures right in here of some tornadic winds occurring. So Bryant, please be in your basement right now. Don't mess around with a storm like that. Again, with the history of producing tornadoes, and we know now, of course, we're getting to the point in the evening where it's harder to see, too. A lot of electrical activity with these storms, significant amount of thunder and lightning with it. Obviously, too, you can see as we overlay now the damage reports. And, yes, that first tornado reported there northwest of Iroquois. So it looks like it's kind of tracked along in the countryside in northwest southwestern Kingsbury County, and now it is just entering this area of Hamlin County. So Bryant's kind of the first stop on the list there, and we'll see what happens next if this tornado continues on the ground. But again, we're assuming as we speak that that is still the case. Obviously, we'll hear, if we hear anything new from our spotters, we will let you know immediately about that. You can see there it is this evening, that whole entire area. Let me take the lightning tracker off for the moment, just kind of clear that up.
They've just been allowed to take out the Kingsbury County tornado warning, so that has been allowed to expire.
Yep, and that makes a lot of sense now that it's crossed the county line and headed up now toward Bryant. So, yep, that's
in the world we live in today, showing our neighbors and friends generosity.
Plan from United Healthcare. And
right on the edge of that, where again, this whole circulation has been problematic over the last, 20 minutes or so. And again, these storms have had a history of producing severe weather and even in this case, turning tornadic very quickly. So again, very strong set of circumstances going on tonight. I know we're gearing up for portions of the news here. We'll see what we'll do here at 10 o'clock. Obviously, with the tornado still on the ground, we're going to have to hang tight with that for a little while longer. By the way, new warnings are now popping up down here in Nebraska. Obviously, we've been kind of watching some of that moving up toward Yankton. That's been a whole separate deal tonight, but I just did want to mention that there's still some ongoing storms down this direction. We'll see what those do tonight. There's been some damage in and around Sioux Falls, a lot going on here this evening with other clusters of storms, but at the present moment, right this minute, it's what's going on right now near Bryant. Again, that's a tornado warning in effect for southwestern Hamlin County, and still awaiting word from the Weather Service on whether or not we're going to allow that one to continue here. Obviously, looking at the latest on this particular warning, looks like it will continue for a little ways longer.
Yeah, at least another 15 or so more minutes. They did also put out an all-encompassing severe thunderstorm warning right along I-29. So this goes out and includes the Watertown area. So Clark, Coddington, Day, Dual, Grant, Hamlin, Marshall, and Roberts County. That large yellow box that basically goes from Esterline on I-29 all the way up into Roberts County and then extending toward Webster as well, but as far north as Sisseton. That is going to be in place until 10:45 p.m. for basically that entire segment that's going to continue to move on through up to the north and east. But again, that does also include that tornado warning with that confirmed tornado still in place just outside of the Willow Lake and Bryant areas.
All right. Folks, it is 2 minutes before the top of the hour. Again, live coverage with our tornado warning in effect for the Bryant area. This has been a confirmed tornado on the ground, according to law enforcement officials in that area, and also several storm spotters have reported that. Again, at the last count, that was as of 9:44, the tornado was located 9 miles south of Willow Lake. Now that, of course, has changed positions within the last 10 minutes. So now as we look at things here just before 10 o'clock, really right over Bryant. If this is still on the ground, it's going to be right in that area, and quite frankly, that's where the strongest couplet is still located. These green areas where the red is meeting up, we're still getting some circulation in there, and obviously we've been kind of careful to watch that as that kind of migrates here into Hamlin County. Obviously, things can change quickly, as we all know the weather and how things form, and then, you know, at least can dissipate as well. But I'm going to assume right now, just given the history of that that tornado warning is going to continue for a little while longer. It would appear to me that some of that rotation may be breaking up a little bit based on this particular scan. So that's some encouraging news, but we do not want to give you the all clear yet, because obviously that can change. And this particular tornado warning popped up just kind of toward the tail end of what our other segment of coverage. So
Dakota News Now begins with an alert from the First Alert Weather Center.
Severe weather coverage continuing at 10 o'clock. We have seen multiple storm systems move through the Dakota News Now viewing area tonight. Look at this. It is video from Brookings of hail that fell in the city at about 6:30. If you have any videos or photos from the storm, you can submit them over at dakotanewsnow.com. In Sioux Falls, XL Energy reporting at this hour, over 2,600 people without power. According to their website, they expect power to be restored by about 11 o'clock tonight. We can also tell you that in the city of Aberdeen, multiple power outages are being reported. Northwestern Energy says they are aware of those.
15 or so minutes. That's for southwestern Hamilton County. Again, this storm now right over Bryant. We're still seeing that rotation couplet.
Weather Center tonight. Hi, Phil.
Yeah, we have. You know, we've had some severe thunderstorm warnings, even a tornado warning, which is still going on right now between Huron and Brookings. We'll show you that in just a second. You know, we've been updating you on that all evening and crawling that information across the bottom of the screen. But here's the wide view of First Alert Live Doppler radar first of all. So you can see there's not much going on in southeastern portions of South Dakota at the present time. But here are all the warnings that are in effect right now. So you see the yellow polygons. Those are the severe thunderstorm warnings. And there's a new one that just came out just southwest of Yankton there in Knox County. So also in Boyd County, we have a severe thunderstorm warning there in Nebraska. So we may have the reintroduction of some severe weather back into southeastern South Dakota. But the warning I want to focus on right here is in right here in portions of Clark and Hamlin counties. This tornado warning in effect until 10:15 this evening, and this originally was issued let's say about 45 minutes or so ago. There was a report of a confirmed tornado with this. I'm not sure if that's still the case, if that is still on the ground at all, but it does look like now they have really expanded a severe thunderstorm warning here all along this line ahead of this line of storms right here.
Reporting a tornado. That's a report to the National Weather Service in Aberdeen. So again, that is located, they're telling us right now, in Bryant. Now, again, we're getting information about that as we speak, whether or not that's actually in the city itself. But that's what the Storm Chaser report was just a minute ago, again, relayed to the National Weather Service. We've had law enforcement confirming this tornado within its history. So if that continues to be verified, again, it sounds like we have some things going on in Bryant right now. And that's breaking news as of 1 minute after 10 o'clock. So we are still in the middle of this thing as we speak, and we're still evaluating how strong that's going to be. Now, let me go back. Let's pause this for a moment. Let's go into our storm tracking tools here and see what's going on with Bryant. Again, that's more of an area that I would say within the last few minutes is probably shifting just a little bit north and east of Bryant. So, again, it's right around the town there as you see this little area. What we're tracking when you see these colors on the screen like that, basically you've got to interpret the winds going toward and against the radar, or forward and backward, if you will. And as Adam draws that with the telestrator there, again, these are some of these couplet areas that have been popping up tornadoes, and that appears to be a very favorable environment that has really kind of kicked up, hasn't it, here in the last half hour. It's
teamwork.
The team gave it one last try.
During the 10-minute breaks, the pool mandates every hour.
Our guards are really good about kind of keeping an eye on the chairs and things around them. On safety breaks, too, we always have to make sure that we have one guard watching the water, and then we have guards watching the grass as well.
But if you are outside of that box, if you are toward Hayti, if you are near Thomas, Hazel, even Castlewood for that matter, I would keep a very, very close eye on any and all updates as this continues to come through, especially considering we still have a confirmed report of a tornado on the ground within the last about 5 or so minutes. That's also still moving up to the north and east. And this is a very fast-moving system. This is a very fast-moving storm at 50 to 55 miles per hour. So you really do not have a whole lot of time to prepare and get ready. So again, if you're in Hayti, if you're in Castlewood, Thomas, just south of the Appleby area, you need to get ready to potentially seek shelter, as this has been a destructive system and a destructive segment within this destructive system.
So, again, recapping where we're at right now. Again, this is a tornado warning area for southwestern parts of Hamlin County. Now, the portion that we just storm tracked is not in the tornado warning, but what we're giving you is a little heads up that if that tornadic circulation would happen to continue, it would eventually end up toward Hayti at about 10:19, and it could end up near Castlewood by 10:29. Now, again, that's pushing this thing out here a little ways, but we'd like to at least give you a heads up. And I know many of you in Castlewood obviously are very concerned about that, and I don't blame you one bit given what's happened this year. But again, the worst of that storm is quite a ways to your southwest yet, so we've got a little time yet to watch it here. And the tornado warning, as it stands right now, is set to expire at 10:15. We'll see if it gets extended. By the way, we just had a couple of other storm reports coming in. Employee of the National Weather Service up in Aberdeen reporting Richmond Lake area had 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts as of 9:33 as the storms blew through the Aberdeen area.
Yeah, so we feel pretty confident in giving these heads up to areas that are outside of whatever warning may be coming up, whether it's a severe thunderstorm warning or, in the case of Brian, toward Hayti, a tornado warning, because we have seen multiple instances where we have seen this particular scenario come around where we have a tornado warning in place. We put out that heads up down the way, and you know what? We actually just got another update coming around. A new tornado warning. This is for Cottington and Hamlin counties. You're going to see this come up within the next couple of minutes. Still tornado on the ground, located over Kellerton Church, 14 miles southwest of Watertown, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. So we are still getting that confirmed tornado on the ground. This includes Hayti, this includes Hazel, Grover, as well as Castlewood as well in this particular warning. And you can see that is a purple shaded box, indicating that we do still have that confirmed tornado on the ground. And it is not moving as fast as per the latest updates, now to 35 miles per hour, but that does not, under any circumstance, mean that you should take this any less seriously. If you are within that particular warning, again, Hazel, Thomas, Castlewood, into the Hayti area, you need to seek shelter immediately. And Brian just put on just a distance tracker from downtown Watertown to where roughly this area of rotation is located. And that's only 16 miles to the south and west. So it is going to be a decently close call as we move. This continues to move on up to the north and east. Again, you can see that new warning that includes Hazel, Grover, and Appleby. There's Watertown right there. And even from the northern leading edge of this flank of the system, we're talking about less than 14 miles, Brian.
Yeah, well, and here again, this is a different thing going on. Now, this is coming in again by the Weather Service here for northern Hamlin and south central Cottington. So we've got two things going on. We just had a tornado around Bryant and extending southwest of there. Now we're regrouping. Now we got another tornado on the ground, and this one again is just southwest of Watertown. At this point, the warning does not include the city of Watertown, but again, we'll keep an eye on this. This is where this environment's kind of popping up here at 10 o'clock at night and has been showing some pretty intense severity. Again, I'm looking at some of the rotation indicators here. I would say certainly there's some of that going on. It's not an extreme level of that, but probably looking at some storm mergers or some other things going on. If I rewind the radar, you can see we've had a number of thunderstorm cells around Watertown. And then you look at what's going on here just to the southwest of town, which again, if I use this ruler attachment here, we're looking at this area just to the east of Hazel. And again, that is a reported tornado on the ground. So that's the latest that we know. And this area right in here appears to be kind of a spot where we're probably getting a little inflow notch, and probably this little notch right there that kind of extends out is where that tornadic circulation would be, about 14 miles to the southwest of Watertown. Given the movement here, this segment of the storm moving at about that 35 to 40 mile an hour range. In fact, since we're on this storm right now, let's go ahead and plot that here for us right now on our storm tracker. And again, there's a lot going on. I know you've got rain already in Watertown. There's been thunder and lightning, but this is maybe a little bit more of the intensity of this. So if we take the latest tracker on this, and again, I'll just pop up these numbers here so we can get kind of a bird's eye view. That would be putting it into Watertown by about 10:27. Okay, so again, kind of a messy radar picture. You've got storms around Watertown right now. One other thing, too, is we're live here during the 10 o'clock broadcast. Can we bring up our Watertown live camera source? I know we were kind of bouncing back and forth on that earlier in the broadcast this evening, but if we have a chance to do that. One thing about Watertown, obviously, now it's dark, so, you know, you're not going to see these things very well at all, so we have to be extra cautious here. I know that's now going to be the trouble for storm spotters in that area, is just trying to see anything going on. But this is uptown Watertown right now. I'm going to kind of view, we're going to go and actually take this around to the west. Let me click on this button here. Just bear with me for a second here. We're going to zoom out. Now, of course, there's wind that's picking up there in Watertown. That's pretty obvious. Let's turn the camera this direction here. And, yeah, see the lightning and the activity there. So, again, there's a lot of wind there moving through Watertown right now. That's really gusting, isn't it, folks? And, again, this is another community where we've been on the air tonight with this. Again, this is a confirmed storm with a tornado on the ground 14 miles southwest of Watertown. Now, that report coming in as of 10:06. So now we're at 10:11. So we can assume, based on our latest scan on Doppler, that's come up a little faster. Let's go to Doppler now on Viper. I want to show that, again, that area near Watertown as it extends there. And this is your intensity of the storm, again, to the west. That's probably in your middle of your hail. And then right in this area, just to the southwest of Aberdeen, it looks like right in here near Grover, we kind of peg this area to be the most problematic right now, and we'll wait and see if we get a new spotter report on that here as of 10 o'clock. It looks like no new information that I can see right now, Adam.
No.
If you've got anything new?
I have no new information, unfortunately, on whether there's been any confirmed spotting as of this minute. The only thing that has come up is that they are going to allow the tornado warning for Clark and Hamilton County, the old warning, to expire ahead of schedule as this has continued to make its way up to the north and east. So down toward Willow Lake and Bryant, the tornado warning for you guys has been allowed to expire early. So in that regard, you're now just down to the severe thunderstorm warning, which is still just encompassing such a large majority of northeastern Kelo land along I-29 from Esteline all the way up towards Sisseton and areas just west of there.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing with this, because right now with these tornado warnings ongoing, it's kind of a messy complex of storms that are kind of bumping into one another. You've got all of these spots right now in this collected area. You've got Watertown here, and the main cell really kind of reorganizing perhaps here with this flank into Coddington County, and then you got the pre-existing tornado warning that came out of the southern flank of this out of Kingsbury. So again, as we're watching all of that interacting tonight, at this point in our storm coverage, again, if you're in Clear Lake, I'd kind of watch that too. Some of these cells over here toward Esteline could still produce some of this kind of rotation that we're watching as we speak. So again, it's been a rough night of weather. Obviously, at the present moment, that's our main concern, is what's going on coming in southwest of Watertown. So Watertown itself is not in the tornado warning, but it is definitely getting closer, and we're waiting word to see if anything gets extended into Watertown.
They have actually just canceled the tornado warning for northern Hamlin and south central Coddington counties. Okay. They are going to cancel it just based on how they have seen that the storm really kind of has lost that rotation. We've seen that on our velocity scan. It's become more and more difficult to try and kind of pinpoint where that rotation signature is. So because of that weakening, they have allowed the tornado warning to expire early. However, we have already seen on multiple occasions that this whole segment has had a history of producing rotation and, by extension, producing a confirmed tornado. So while this is expiring, remember, you do still have that severe thunderstorm warning in place, and this can really just ramp right back up pretty quickly, as we've seen on a couple of occasions already.
All right. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and let that kind of regroup a little bit. Again, if anything changes on that scenario, we will be, of course, right back with our coverage. If anything should change near Watertown, we'll be closely scanning that as well. Adam, I'll send it back to you, and we'll regroup here for the 10 o'clock broadcast.
Yep, absolutely. So we will continue to monitor this until we get to that point. We will head back on over to 10 o'clock news programming. But again, should we get any kind of updates, we will be sure to let you guys know. We will break in with any and all relevant information.
All right, we really appreciate it, you guys. Thanks a lot. All right, if you have pictures or videos of the storm damage in your area, we would like to see them. You can send the pictures to ushare@keloland.com or use the social media hashtag WX.
The fate of South Dakota's first impeached elected official is now in the hands of the Senate. Ahead of tomorrow's start of the impeachment trial, the defense for Jason Rounsberg has submitted 4 documents totaling 171 pages. Evidence includes everything from the North Dakota investigator interviews with Rounsberg to a consent to search document for Rounsberg's iPhone. Lastly, a South Dakota Public Broadcasting article highlighting 31 similar cases regarding legally sober crashes that killed pedestrians is cited. You can find links to all the evidence and documents that can be used during the trial in a KELOLAND.com original. We'll bring you coverage from tomorrow's trial on air and online.
We've had a lot of active weather this evening. We'll recap and look ahead coming up.
The exclusive sponsor of KELOLAND News at 10 is Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. Get your tickets now for Yesterday, a tribute to the Beatles, August 13th.
Sporty styling, accelerated design. Drive your future in the completely redesigned 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander from Vernite Mitsubishi. In demand, yet attainable, and in your hands. Be a part of our future as we usher in the new era of Mitsubishi SUVs at our all-new employee-owned location on Sioux Falls East Side. Experience our newest dealership in an elevated level of employee-owned service, featuring the powerful performance and affordable luxury of the new 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander. Vernite Mitsubishi. We deliver dreams to driveways.
Happy Take and Bake Tuesday! Every Tuesday at Papa Murphy's, you can get any large pizza for just $10.99, which makes Tuesday the best day to bring home all your favorites.
We might have too many favorites.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Mold, rank air, pests, all getting closer to inside your home. With a dirt crawl space, there's no telling what's below you.
A sealed crawl space locks the nasty stuff out, plus can lower utility bills. So get it sealed. Call Blackburn Basement Systems today.
The exclusive sponsor of Your Money Matters is I-29 RV Supercenter. New and used RVs are in stock now with fantastic financing options and super low payments.
At Menards, we've got everything. Supplies, tools, power, accessories, and all the extras to get you ready. Ready for fun, ready for friends, and ready for family. Get ready for summer with Menards. This flat iron grill with 2 burners is just $249.99 after 11% rebate.
Save big money at Menards.
The World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars invade Houston Speedway 4 nights in a row, starting June 22nd with Ace Ready Mix and Marilyn Roy's night. Then, the richest sprint car race in the history of the Upper Midwest happens June 23rd through the 25th. It's the High Bank Nationals, presented by Billion Automotive. Nearly $500 million in total prize money is up for grabs, with $100,000 to win on Saturday night. Races start at 7:30. Get your tickets now at HoustonSpeedway.com.
A new generation of storm tracking. KELOLAND Live Doppler HD. Sponsored by these partners.
Yeah, it's certainly been quite the active evening in the Weather Center. Let's go right over to Live Doppler radar and get a bit of a recap for what we've seen over the last 5 to 6 hours as all of this started way out to the west. We'll zoom out a little bit more. Let's put this back in time where we started with all of these thunderstorms out in the western portion of South Dakota. So there's about 20 after 4. as we continue to make this move on through, a couple little renegade thunderstorms also made their presence known coming up from Nebraska and eventually moved on into southeastern South Dakota. So we had that bit of action that started to get itself together. This is 6:30, and there's our first tornado warning that we had a little bit earlier east of Kadoka that moved on into Jones County. Then a couple of tornado warnings south and west of Pierre around 7 o'clock. Now keep in mind, what you see over Pierre that was around 7:15, that's the same system we've been watching ever since. It's been moving gradually upward toward Aberdeen. Not to be outdone, we've also had some severe thunderstorms in the Sioux Falls area that produced upward of 80-mile-per-hour gusts on the north end of the city, not to mention destructive winds and even some hail as those cells moved into Minnesota. From there, that line segment just continued to evolve, move into Aberdeen, and give that some 60 to 70-mile-per-hour gusts. And then, well, it's been what we've been watching for about the last half an hour. The confirmed tornado warnings southwest of Watertown that have now just kind of fizzled out, at least in terms of the tornado warnings, but still that severe thunderstorm warning encompassing Watertown, Sisseton, down toward Esteline, which will stay in place until 10:45 p.m. And they do still have the tornado possible verbiage on that. Also, if you're down toward Yankton, heads up there, still a severe thunderstorm in northeastern Nebraska. This one to try and jump over the river from there. So we do still have our severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Mountain Time, as we watch these thunderstorms continue to move on through. But this does gradually get on out of here as we do go into the morning on Tuesday. We'll quickly go through Futurecast. And you can see by the time we get to Tuesday morning, we finally have some calm weather to enjoy. No severe weather to deal with, no heat, no humidity for that matter. The first day of summer is actually shaping up to be probably one of the best days of the next 7 or so. So there is something to look forward to there. We're also going to keep an eye on the thermometer as odds for above average temperatures in general win out, but nothing as absurdly hot as what we've seen over the last couple of days, including today, where we officially hit 100 at the airport. Lows tonight in the 50s out west, 60s to near 70 to the east. There is that picture-perfect first day of summer for your day on Tuesday. Quick round of the 7-day forecast does have a little bit of thunderstorm activity Friday into Saturday. We cool off for the first weekend of summer as well. Same rules apply in Aberdeen. Great first day of summer tomorrow. A few showers and thunderstorms Friday into Saturday, but a cooler Sunday on the way. Might want to circle that day as well for any outdoor activities. In Pierre, we may toe the line of 100 one more time on Thursday, then some thunderstorms possible Friday. You also get in on a very nice first weekend of summer. And last but not least, Rapid City, 80 tomorrow, 91 by Thursday. But how about some low 70s by the weekend as you have a few more opportunities for some thunderstorms by Sunday into Monday.
How remodeling a home can lead to a new career path. And how one woman is working to increase female leadership in Keloland on tomorrow's Keloland Living.
Morning, Dan.
Love the new truck.
Got it through Ford Blue Advantage.
But this is used?
Yep. Took a few test drives at my Ford dealer. Got everything I was looking for.
Did you get a warranty?
Ford backed. With the Carfax support, too.
Visit your Ford dealer and get a certified inspection, a Ford-backed warranty, Carfax report, and a money-back guarantee. Ford Blue Advantage. Used car buying that's built for you.
You did get everything.
Terrific Tuesdays at Hy-Vee. This Tuesday, get fresh ground chuck, only $1.99 a pound. Pringles, only 99 cents. Bakery Fresh Mini Cookies, only $3.49 for an 18-count pack. And Folgers Coffee, only $7.99. Tuesday only. For more ways to save on hundreds of items every day at Hy-Vee, check out our monthly catalog, our weekly ad, and scan the QR code to visit HyVeeDeals.com for even more deals.
I have a lot of great family and friends, like my nephews. But living with disabilities means I sometimes need extra help, which is why I use Dakota at home. South Dakota's free information source for aging and individuals with disabilities who want to remain in their own homes. But even Dakota at home can't tell me what happened to all my acorns.
Welcome to Taco John's, Greg.
Honey barbecue fried chicken tacos.
Crispy chicken tenders wrapped inside a tortilla and topped with our barbecue sauce that's sweet and smoky.
Well, I'll be.
New honey barbecue fried chicken tacos, only at Taco John's.
Yeah.
Before the storms rode through the area today, it was another day of dangerous heat.
Temperatures soared into the 90s for many communities today. KELOLAND's Kelly Volk shows you how a Sioux Falls organization is helping people in need stay safe.
Kenneth Walker is a guest of the men's shelter at the Union Gospel Mission Sioux Falls. While he enjoys exercising outdoors, he's taking it easy today.
Today is inside. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Finding something to do.
The Union Gospel Mission has several programs here that are especially helpful when the hot temperatures kick in. For example, the men's shelter is open for cold showers 7 days a week from 3:30 to 5. People can also get free bottled water, hygiene items, and more at the organization's thrift store.
Shoes are really important because many times maybe the homeless population or people that are intoxicated and off the street don't wear shoes. And so they don't realize that their feet have now been burned.
This week, staff will also be getting education sessions on dehydration, burns, and more. It's just a few of the ways they're keeping their guests and the community safe in the extreme heat. In Sioux Falls, Kelly Volk, KELOLAND News.
In addition to having a job, Walker has recently become a staff member at the Union Gospel Mission. And if you would like to donate bottled water, just take it to the organization's main office Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We've also included a link to donate money online in the story on KELOLAND.com.
And Sioux Falls Christian visited Del Rapids in the live stream Game of the Week. Find out who came out on top up next in sports.
Cooler weather is in the forecast. We'll take a look at that, plus any chances of rain on KELOLAND this morning.
We discovered that I have cataracts. He said we could go with a trifocal lens where my vision could be crystal clear at 3 different stages. I just thought, awesome. I can see far away, but I don't have to have readers to read my book. But I also don't need correction for my computer work. The trifocal was really a no-brainer for me.
My family's been ranching for 50 years, so I know a load of bull when I see it. When Washington liberals attack America's tech innovators, they're attacking all of us. The left's bill will destroy jobs and threaten the online technology we use every day. China will get stronger and America will get weaker. I don't understand how any Republican senator could support this liberal agenda. Tell Senator John Thune to stand up for American technology.
Hi, Chris Jeske here with I-29 RV Supercenter. I-29 RV Supercenter has your new and used RV in stock now. You got to check out our new line of Icon golf carts. We've got fantastic financing options with super low payments on everything. And remember, we buy and consign good, clean units every day. Need to get your camper ready? We have the area's largest service center. Get the camping season started now at I-29 RV Supercenter, just off of T Exit 73, or shop online at i29rv.com.
Being a new business is a challenge. And First Premier Bank has just been a great ally, a great partner to be side by side, hand in hand as we go through our journey. When I walk in the lobby, it's so welcoming to have a bank greet you by your name, welcome you, and how can we help you all the way through from the time you walk in the front door to the time you walk out.
Your success is our business. It's how we've grown to be one of the nation's strongest community banks. First Premier Bank, member FDIC.
I'm Kirk Davis with Billion Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram. Shopping for a new vehicle in 2022 requires a little patience. For many new vehicles, you can expect to wait a half a year or more. Fortunately, Ram and Jeep are doing things differently. They are prioritizing sold orders first and will build and deliver many popular Ram and Jeep models in about 60 days. Plus, we can help you with additional sold order discounts. See Billion Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram during the Make the Switch event and let us help you place your custom order today.
Get the latest news and sports headlines, weather forecasts, and more delivered to your inbox. Scan the code or go to KELOLAND.com to sign up now.
The Del Rapids Legion baseball team played 9 games in the span of 7 days before finally taking last weekend off. Tonight, Post 65 played host to Sioux Falls Christian Post 9-11. In the first inning, Christian strikes first when Caden Heiser flips a single into right field. Tim DeSotto's going to score. Sioux Falls Christian leads 1-0. Batter later, it's Caden Reitz. He'll blast a double over the center fielder's head. And bringing Heiser into scores. Sioux Falls Christian would lead 3-0 after half an inning of play. But in the home half of the first, Del Rapids answers quickly as Will Jatan blasts a 2-run double to center field, as that would even the contest at 3 apiece. After Del scored 3 more, they would continue to add on with the bases loaded thanks to Jack Henry. He'll hook a breaking ball off the left field fence. All 3 runs would score, part of a 9-run inning that put Del's up 9-3 after 1, and they go on to earn the 14-4 win over Sioux Falls Christian in 5 innings. Well, 3 feature titles were up for grabs Sunday night at Houston Speedway. Race Saver Sprints, Brandon Bosma started the race in 7th place, but by the 11th lap, the 23 car had taken over the lead, and he wouldn't give it back as he became the first repeat winner at Houston's this season. Up next, it's late model street stocks, and Zach Olivier in the 71 car started in 9th place, but he just kept climbing the standings until finally taking the lead in the 4th lap, and he would go on to join Bosma as a repeat winner as he took home the late model street stock feature. And then finally in the 410 sprint feature, Ryan Timms had already picked up a pair of wins at Jackson Motorplex already on the weekend. Needed a win at Houston's to pick up the weekend sweep and $10,000 as part of the border battle. He'll take over the lead with 9 laps to go and avoid traffic in the final lap as the 15-year-old picks up the weekend sweep and a cool $10,000 prize for winning all 3 feature races at the border battle. We'll be right back. I don't have a check on your forecast.
KELOLAND Sports is sponsored by Sanford Health. When it comes to the activities that fill your life, Sanford Health has the expertise to keep you moving.
Jackson was born in 2009 and Jaron in 2013. Both boys are missing 3 genes on the X chromosome.
He's the only person in the world I can relate to.
So we depend on the community here at Sanford, and the boys will forever. We trusted our providers that they were going to look out for our family, and they did.
Normal hospitals, they're like, oh geez, but this one you're like...
Hey America, it's Adrienne Bankert. I am so excited to wake up with you, have coffee with you, but if you need an earlier start, I totally get it. I've got just the guy for you. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Adrienne, and hello, America. I'm Mitch Carr. Join me at 6 a.m., 5 a.m. Central for early morning.
And you can still stay tuned for Morning in America with me, Adrienne Bankert, at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 Central.
Early morning starts June 27th at 6/5 Central, only on News Nation.
You're going to need this.
You can say that again.
Morning, Dan.
Love the new truck.
Got it through Ford Blue Advantage.
But this is used?
Yep. Took a few test drives at my Ford dealer, got everything I was looking for.
Did you get a warranty?
Ford backed. The Carfax support too.
Visit your Ford dealer and get a certified inspection, a Ford-backed warranty, Carfax report, and a money-back guarantee. Ford Blue Advantage. Used car buying that's built for you.
You did get everything.
You want to feel important, to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things.
We know. We felt that way too.
And that's why we joined the Army National Guard. Take on your legacy.
Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
What makes best reviews the best reviews? They have an unbiased team that researches products in real-world situations to give reliable recommendations on pretty much everything.
Call that a plasma sword?
So you can be confident that whatever you're buying is right for you, no matter what life throws at it. Like your daughter Clementine, for example. For the best reviews, go to bestreviews.com. Seriously, before you buy anything, ever.
It has been a long day in the Storm Center. If you have pictures or video of any storm damage in your area, we'd like to see them. You can send pictures to YouShare@KeloLand.com or use the social media hashtag KeloWX. Adam, it has been a long night. Still some areas in danger tonight.
Yeah, still some severe thunderstorm warnings in portions of northeastern KeloLand along I-29 from Esteline to the North Dakota border until 11 p.m. Also a severe thunderstorm watch for portions of eastern KeloLand until 11.
It's our time. Thanks for watching.
Have a great night, everyone.